Pirate's Most Powerful Villain, Chapter 281-300. Chapter 0281 Special Awakened Zone. Uchiha Itachi. Big Mark's eyes flickered, but he had heard of this name. The outside world does not know the existence of Uchiha Itachi, but Marine knows that before this operation, Marine specially informed him of some dream information, including the abilities of some members. One of them is Uchiha Itachi. How did you find me? Big Mark said solemnly. I changed my face. His ability to steal fruit can steal things touched by his right hand, including human facial features. Before he killed a patrol team, he stole the face of one of them, just in case he was exposed, he could get away with it. I just didn't expect that as soon as the dream appeared, it locked him. In this regard, Uchiha Itachi looked like this, and said, your disguise is fine, at least you can't see a trace of falsehood. Apart from the flaw in your voice, it's hard to tell the difference in your breath. As for why I can easily target you, you can no need to know. Hearing this, Big Mark didn't bother to disguise anymore. With a swipe of his left hand, his facial features suddenly distorted, turning into his original ugly appearance. Kakaka, I didn't expect you to find out. He laughed dryly, raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. Now, if I said I was just here to see the scenery, you wouldn't believe me, would you? Uchiha Itachi raised his eyebrows and said playfully, you are very witty, and surrendered immediately. I'm not good at fighting, so run first. Big Mark paused, turned around suddenly, and jumped off the roof in one fell swoop. Chinyang has always been on guard against his escape, and now that he moves, he will chase after him. But at this moment, the chain on the big dog's neck loosened, and a roar came out, and the next moment, its body expanded tenfold. Ow! Under the night, a wolf howl sounded. There was a slight change in his coat color, becoming more and more shiny and supple, his teeth grinned, and his fierce light appeared. Ha ha ha, finally recovered. The wolf dog spit out words and laughed wildly. Help me stop him. Big Mark's shout came, but the figure quickly disappeared into the night. Hearing this, the big wolf dog grinned, but he didn't want to help, but he couldn't help it. HMPH, sooner or later I will kill you with my own hands. The wolf dog's eyes flashed, then stared at Chinyang alertly, and said, why didn't you go after him? He can't run away. Compared to him, I'm more curious about you. Uchiha Itachi stared calmly. Your name is Da Polo. The Awakened Zone ability. I was also a great pirate back then. Big Polo snorted coldly and said, you should have heard of the name, Poison Wolf. The era of his fame was a few years after Roger's death. At that time, the era of the great pirates had just begun, and various monsters emerged one after another, competing for the position of the four emperors, and he was one of the losers at the beginning. Chang Gyu, Shan. I haven't heard of it. Uchiha Itachi shook his head. Why? What? Big Polo said angrily. Don't lie, the name of Poison Wolf has only been in the past few years. How could I have never heard of it? Lao Tzu offered a reward of 899 million back then. Nearly 900 million is equivalent to the combat power of the three disasters. Uchiha Itachi looked at the other party, but Vivi shook his head. The awakened zone in front of him, although not weak, did not reach the level of the three calamities. Seeing that he didn't speak, Big Polo rolled his eyes and said, actually, I don't mean to be enemies with you. Your dreams are so powerful, I want to pull out the tiger's beard because my brain is broken. That bastard has a special relationship. If he dies, I will die too, so, look, can we let us go? I promise, if you see your dreams in the future, you will detour. He said it awkwardly. Uchiha Itachi was unmoved, his eyes narrowed, and in an instant, his pupils turned into kaleidoscopes. In an instant, the flow of time seemed to slow down, and the whole world was clear at a glance, and any subtle changes could not escape the insight of these eyes. Susano. With a whisper, Uchiha Itachi's body immediately overflowed with manic chakra. The orange-yellow color of this force first condensed the ribs on both sides, followed by the arms, chest and abdomen, and head. In just a few seconds, a half-body Valkyrie energy body suddenly appeared. I'm so cowardly, you still want to arrest me? Big Kobo let out a low growl, like a vicious dog who was provoked, his eyes fierce. HMPH, you're not even a cadre, I'm afraid of you. According to the information provided by Marine, the dreamy fighter, Itachi Uchiha, is good at using a kind of flame, black fire, which can be triggered directly in the air, cannot be extinguished, and is extremely difficult to deal with. Akainu suffered a loss at the beginning. After research, Marine came to a conclusion that the flame is transmitted by sight, and the place where the eye focuses is where the flame burns. Damn it, I shouldn't have come. Wolf Fang. Big Kobo cursed inwardly, and then his body moved, spinning at a high speed, like a drill, hitting Uchiha Itachi at a very high speed. Boom. Susanoo raised his hands and folded them in front of his chest, blocking the opponent's attack. It's tough. What kind of power is this? Big Kobo froze in his heart, gritted his teeth, and while the whole person was spinning, a thick purple poisonous gas was spewed out of his mouth. Poison Wolf Kamikaze. Whirring. The high-speed rotation drives the rich poisonous gas, making this attack stronger again. Uchiha Itachi couldn't help but be forced to take 2 steps back, and Susanoo was even more eroded by the poisonous gas, as if he was about to be crushed at any time. It's stronger than it looks, and it can also use poison. Uchiha Itachi looked indifferent, raised his right hand slightly, and made a gesture. The next moment, the person has been freed from Susanoo's body. At the same time, his hands quickly formed a seal. Fire escape. Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique. Uchiha Itachi opened his mouth and spit, and flames flew out of his mouth, spreading out in all directions, and hitting the big wolf dog in unison. Bang bang bang. The continuous flame attack immediately dispelled the poisonous gas raised by the big wolf dog. However, these flames failed to get close, and were blown out by the wind and waves caused by the rotation. At the same time, the electric drill suddenly turned around, gave up Susanoo, and turned towards Uchiha Itachi's body. It's too late for each of us to step back. Big Kobo's voice came. In this regard, Uchiha Itachi Isho, his pupils shrank suddenly. Amaterasu. Puff. A black flame appeared out of thin air, and then, it devoured the big Kobo in one breath. Ah, my speed is so fast, 3.1 can still be locked. Big Kobo screamed, but did not retreat, but continued to call towards Uchiha Itachi with the flame of Amaterasu. Huh. Seeing this, Uchiha Itachi raised his eyebrows. It's really interesting, your awakened zone is different from what I've seen. Saying that, he made a seal with one hand. The next moment, before the attack fell, his body suddenly disintegrated into black crows. Screaming, flying in all directions. At the same time, Susanoo's sword slashed. Boom. A sword fell, directly smashing the big Kobo to the ground. I'm not a cadre, so you're not afraid of me. What gave you the illusion that you could beat me? On another roof, black crows gathered, and at the same time a cold voice came. If you want to fight with cadres, you are 10 years too early. Chapter-282-Dreamy Killing Chickens to Warn Monkeys. Boom. Susanoo slashed down with a sword, slashing the great Kobo into the ground. With a scream, the big Kobo was pierced through his abdomen with a sword and pinned to the ground. Bastard! What kind of weapon is this? I saw his body twisted, slowly inhaled, and disappeared in an instant. And then, the 10-fist sword also began to dissipate, submerging into Susanoo's body. 899 million. Uchiha Itachi chuckled. I thought I wasn't a cadre, so I'm relaxed. Thinking so, he couldn't help shaking his head. These pirates were bewildered by their former glory. Facing his spirit sword 10-fist sword, they were so careless. After being slashed, whether you are an awakened zone or not, you will be sealed. It would be more troublesome if they wanted to kill each other in a head-on fight, but it would be easy to just capture and seal them. One more. Uchiha Itachi turned his eyes and looked in the direction of Mark's escape, then took a step and quickly chased after him. At the same time, battles are taking place all over the island. In addition to the 4 groups that have been exposed, there are also 3 groups of hidden intruders, all of whom have been caught out one by one. Not to mention getting the blueprints. As soon as they approach the mansion, they will be discovered immediately. The battle lasted for nearly an hour, and in the end all the intruders were suppressed, and the 15 people who took action were only 3 members of the Dream, and 2 cadres of the Dream. As for the Ocean Master, Sea Dragon, there was no movement from beginning to end, and it seemed that he was not interested in this level of battle. At this moment, in the central mansion, in the wide hall, a group of intruders were caught, their hands were tied, and they knelt on the ground, each with a very ugly face. 27 of these people, and a total of 6 gangs, Crocodile, Gecko Moria, are also among them. The 9-tailed demon fox, the Desert Emperor, Ibaraki Doji, and the King of Knights looked at each other with cold eyes. As for the Golden Lion, it stood aside and completely acted as a gatekeeper. Is this all? Robin stared blankly at the scene in front of him and said, so fast. A riot was suppressed so easily. No, there is one person who hasn't come back. Ibaraki Doji shook his head. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of crows flew in, and then condensed into a figure. Sorry, was run away. Saying that, Uchiha Itachi made a seal on his hands, and then Susanoo's figure appeared, which condensed a gourd in his hand, and a figure overflowed from the gourd. This is the Big Polo, but the current Big Polo is no longer a big wolf dog with a body of tens of meters, but lying on the ground like a dead dog. It was Big Mark who escaped. Uchiha Itachi said softly. It disappeared out of thin air, and even Heilong didn't notice it. How did he leave? Hearing this, the 9-tailed demon fox grinned and said with a smile, as expected of stealing the fruit, it is rumored that Whitebeard can't catch him. This person should be sent by Marine, nothing to worry about, and then let the ruling cadre take action and take him grab it. So, what to do with these people? The King of Knights asked, then looked at Nicole Robin. In fact, he was not asking for advice, but wanted to see what the girl would say. As for the prisoners, all of them were frightened and regretted. I thought I could get it cheap, but I didn't expect the dreamer to come back so fast that it was too late to even escape. The most annoying is Gecko Moria, his current appearance can be described as miserable. Covered in blood, he was tied into a zongzi. In the previous battle, he ate a tailed beast cannon from the 9-tailed demon fox and was severely injured. As for Crocodile, without a word, he was bound by Seastone's shackles and was powerless to resist. Glancing at the group of prisoners, Nicole Robin gritted her teeth and said, this is not something I can decide. I'm just a newcomer who does odd jobs. Please contact the captain. Hearing this, all the phantom gods nodded in satisfaction, and this girl was a little self-aware. Then I'll practice. The Desert Emperor took a step forward, a little bit of the scepter in his hand, and suddenly, a golden magic power poured out. He muttered a few words in his mouth, and then the magic power began to condense and gradually elongated to form a silhouette. The man was dressed in white and had an ethereal temperament. Chinyong slowly opened his eyes, first glanced at Robin, and then looked at the prisoners. Under the gaze of these eyes, the 26 intruders felt a sudden shock. It was like an ordinary person who met a tiger in the wild. Just by looking at it, his body fell into a rigid state, and he didn't dare to move at all, not even breathing. It was as if he breathed a sigh of relief and was in danger of death. Horrible. At this moment, this thought appeared in everyone's heart. This is the dream Captain Emperor Chin. Crocodile narrowed his eyes and knelt on the ground, not daring to move, mysterious man. In his view, the other party is clearly in front of him, but he can't perceive the other party's existence. It's as if the other party is standing in a higher dimension, and it is an honor for him to see the other party. It's just a doppelganger of mine. Suddenly, Chinyong opened his mouth and whispered, I already know what happened here. As for how to deal with it. Speaking of which, he paused, his eyes terribly calm. Kill the chickens to warn the monkeys. Throw them in the capital of the 7 waters below to show the public. Just killing them is meaningless, the deterrence is not enough, they are all tied up, nailed to a wooden frame, and thrown into the 7 waters below to warn others. The majesty of dreams is not to be offended. Yes. All the phantom gods nodded, respectfully. Seeing this, Robin also said quickly, "Yes, Captain." When the prisoners heard this, most of them were relieved. They were just showing off. At least they were still alive and had a chance to escape. Although this was unlikely, it was better than being directly killed. Only Crocodile, with a gloomy face, Chin Emperor. Huh. Chinyang glanced at him. "Shichibukai, Crocodile, you are honestly your Shichibukai. Nothing is wrong, offend me, wait for your own death." At a glance, it seemed as if the whole world had collapsed. Crocodile was shocked. At this moment, Chinyang's height was expanding infinitely, like an ancient giant standing in the sky. Impossible. Just look at each other. He was horrified, but he lowered his head subconsciously and didn't dare to look again. Hey hey hey, the 9-tailed demon fox laughed. I think this guy is very unconvinced. It would be better to show him naked. At will. Chinyang looked at the dead dog 107 Great Polo on the ground. As for him, imprison him. He is a specially awakened zone, please torture him a little. After he finished speaking, he glanced at Nico Robin again, and then his body dissipated, turning into a golden magic power again and returning to Sand Emperor's body. From the beginning to the end, Chinyang didn't say a word to Robin, which made Robin feel a little bit relieved at the same time. At present, the captain seems to be satisfied with her. Thinking of this, she hurriedly said, "Everything is done according to the captain's will. Except for this dog, the rest show it to the public. The majesty of dreams cannot be offended." The next day, residents of the 7 waters suddenly discovered that in the center of the square, there were 26 wooden frames, and a pirate was nailed to each of the wooden frames. And at the feet of the pirates, there is also a bulletin board, describing who this person is, and naming the identity. Everyone only kept a pair of shorts, and the skin was full of wounds, some miserable, covered in blood. The abnormality here soon caused a shock in the capital of 7 waters. The mayor, officials came one after another, and there were even tourists, pirates, and businessmen. A group of people gathered around the square and looked at the crowd in shock. This is the captain of the Duobao Pirates, a supernova 3 years ago, with a bounty of 480 million. He's Shichibukai Crocodile. How miserable. No, the worst thing is that he, the former Shichibukai, Tsukikin Moria, is already dead. The crowd of onlookers were shocked. So many pirates, strong people, were nailed to the public in one breath, and there was no need to say it clearly. Everyone looked up at the sky, and the floating sky island was suppressed in everyone's heart. Dream. Chapter 0283 double fruit, artificial fruit, modified fruit. Dream. A name appeared in the hearts of all the onlookers. They looked up at the sky. Above that sky, the floating sky island floated quietly. A 10,000-meter dragon was like a sculpture, holding the big island without a sound. What happened last night? Being able to hear the vibrations from the sky, it should be that the dream had a battle with this group of people. What the hell is going on? Many people fell silent. Neither the mayor of the 7 waters nor the pirates present could guess the specific situation. This is not a person at their level, you can know. There are only a few people who are very fortunate in their hearts. They are the few who know the Pluto drawing, and they came to the 7 waters with this goal. They knew very well about the riots last night, and they wanted to take part in the riots at the time, but they were deterred by the dreamy name, and they didn't actually do anything, so they escaped the disaster. Otherwise, there must be their place among the people who show up here today. Even the 2 Shichibukai have become this miserable appearance. If they really go to the island, it will only be worse. I don't know what forces these people came from, and whose orders did they obey? A few sensible people meditated in their hearts. As for the mayor of the Seven Waters, his face was gloomy. Pirates were common, but Shichibukai was not. This matter was too important, and he did not dare to act rashly. You can only report to the government. Thinking like this, he turned around and left, and at the same time instructed the people beside him. Take care of this place. Don't move. This is what the dream pirates want to show to the public. If you destroy it at will, you may get burned. Not to mention the reaction of the people on the island. This incident is just the beginning, and the subsequent aftermath has just begun. Most of these 26 people, except for a few, were instructed by various forces behind them. Qinyang showed it to the public, just to show these forces. In the sea area surrounding the Seven Waters, the sea train's sea track is still under construction. It was noon now, and a merchant ship slowly passed by. In the captain's cabin of this merchant ship, Big Mark sat heavily on the high chair. In front of him is a Marine Vice Admiral wearing a justice coat. In other words failed. Vice Admiral was in his 30s, while Vivi frowned. He couldn't help but said, "Didn't you say that there is nothing in the world that you can't steal?" "How do I know?" Big Mark snorted. "I only got close to the house, and the dreamer found me. If it wasn't for my special abilities, I would have been arrested long ago." Speaking of which, he thought of the big polo. That big wolf dog is still very useful, and the combat power is extremely strong. However, he ran too fast at the time, and did not completely remove the chains on Dabo's head and neck. I am afraid that the opponent's combat power would not be able to exert 1/3 of the battle strength. It is estimated that it is appropriate to be caught. Since it fails, then the previous agreement is void. Vice Admiral took a deep breath and said solemnly, "Your Majesty Mark Shichibukai, the second task we Marine gave you was to steal from the riots on the day of the auction. To the drawings." "What are you kidding?" Big Mark said angrily. "I haven't lived enough. I offended the dream last night. What am I doing? They will let me go. I'm just good at running away, but I don't have the confidence to dream about it. You can still be safe from the chase." Quote. As he said, he waved his hand and was about to chase people away. "You don't know the horror of dreams. You're just an ordinary member. It's very strange. The information you Marine gave is all bullshit." He thought of Uchiha Itachi last night and shivered. "No matter what you say, I won't do it. Go away." "Really? Then you have to think about it." Vice Admiral shook his head, gave Big Mark a deep look, and turned away. He was only responsible for conveying the order. As for whether the other party agreed or not, he had nothing to do. He just went back to report the task, so as not to be scolded. However, he is more curious, what happened last night to make this daring guy look like this? Floating Sky Island, the central mansion. Except for Sand Emperor Azir, the rest have disappeared. In the forced transformation period, Azir couldn't put it away. Qinyang could only torture himself as Sand Emperor. In the empty room, a big wolf dog was chained and kept barking at Qinyang. "Bastard! Let that Uchiha Itachi come out last night, I'm not convinced." "He he he." Qinyang chuckled and said, "You are insulting my IQ." "Which one are you dreaming?" Big Poirot growled, but the trauma was so severe that he didn't dare to struggle too hard. "I am Sand Emperor Azir." As he spoke, the scepter in Qinyang's hand was suddenly struck. With a bang, the big wolf dog was dizzy from the blow. You're screaming, and I don't mind letting you experience more interesting pain," Qinyang said calmly. "Big Poro, the captain of the Poison Wolf Pirates, the bounty was 899 million 8 years ago, and he is a zone dog fruit person who had a conflict with the Whitebeard pirates. The war was disastrous and disappeared." Quote. In this regard, the big Polo sneered, "Your intelligence is very well informed, and it was investigated overnight." A phone call thing. Qinyang smiled and didn't care about this kind of trash talk. He had made a phone call earlier, and Doflamingo had figured it out. "Your state is very special. You are clearly an awakened zone ability person, but you can't release the transformation. Qin Yang asked. Also, there is no poison in your fruit ability. Hearing this, Big Poro was stunned, then suddenly grinned and said, "You want to know?" Boom. Another scepter hit, and the big wolf dog was directly beaten to the ground. Qin Yang finally spoke calmly. If you say it, you can still survive. If you don't say it, it will be useless. Do you think we will waste food and keep things that are useless? I said. Big Polo resolutely confessed. However, after I finish speaking, you can't kill me, you have to let me go. No, don't let me go for the time being. Let me go, I will definitely be found by Big Mark, and then by him. Take control. Yes. Well, I still believe in your fantastic reputation. Big Poro got up again and said, I am indeed a certain form of the dog fruit, and I did not have the ability to poison. The reason why I can use poison is because the fruit I ate has been transformed. Renovation. Qin Yang couldn't help but be a little curious. That's right. Big Polo nodded and said, when did the devil fruit appear? It is impossible to verify, but in the long history, some people have been studying it constantly, wanting to know the secrets in it, so as to get stronger, enough power to rule the world. Quote. It's interesting, you go on. Qin Yang was a little interested. In the course of the research, 3 approaches have been proposed. The first is that a person tries to eat multiple fruits, that is, a dual ability person, but no one has succeeded so far, but anyone who eats 2 will die. The second is artificial devil fruit, such as the glitter man who ate glint glint fruit, extracted genes from his blood, and created a new, glint glint fruit. This idea once caused a lot of shock, but it still failed. At present, it is also being studied by marine scientist Baker Punk, but it is unlikely to succeed. This made Qin Yang think of Marine's android army. Of course, the current androids are still in the laboratory, right? After all, Bartholomew Bear, it didn't take long for Shichibukai. The third type is to artificially transform a devil fruit, for example, adding new abilities, poison, lightning, flame, frost, etc. to the dog fruit. The third one is successful, and I am the successful experimental body. Big Poro said calmly, the dog fruit I ate contains the power of toxins. However, the price is that it is difficult for me to control, especially after awakening, I can hardly change back to human form. Moreover, I am the only successful person so far. The experimental body. Quote. After listening to this sentence, Qin Yang couldn't help but be a little surprised, remodeling devil fruit. This is the first time I have heard of artificial zone devil fruit. He is working on it himself. There is a little progress, but it is still a long way from success. Transforming devil fruit, this technology has been successful. Marine, or which scientist? Probably seeing Qin Yang's thoughts, Da Polo shook his head and said, it's not science and technology, but a person with ability, a person who transforms fruit ability, a person of the same era as Roger, who lost to a silver medalist of Roger. His tone was slightly mocking. After he finished speaking, he added, you are collecting devil fruits so crazy, you must have heard of a few special fruits, right? The fruit of transformation is one of them, and there is the fruit of surgery. This fruit is also called the fruit of immortality. The ability person can give human eternal life. In addition, there are dark fruit, time fruit and so on. The fruit of surgery and the fruit of darkness, Qin Yang knew, and who would eat them in the future? Those with the ability to transform fruit. He pondered for a moment, then shook his head. Devil fruits are really strange, and there is such an ability to transform other devil fruits. However, this was of no use to him. He doesn't need a specific devil fruit, all he needs is the quantity. Moreover, the success rate of the transformation seems to be very low, and there is only one successful example in front of me. I thought I would get some useful information, but it seems that I thought too much. Thinking in his heart, Qin Yang stopped paying attention to Mark and walked out of the room. Next, I'll sell Garose, 5 elders first, then choose an auction venue and prepare for the #1 auction in the world. Chapter 0284-Buying and Selling Gorosei, 5 Elders 1. The first update. I have been disconnected from the internet in the morning, and I have only come now. I repaired the broadband and told me that the signal here is too strong, and the cat can't respond. Damn. It is really interesting to transform the fruit, but it is not very useful to Chinyang. Zone's special awakening are so great that it seems to be worth the loss. Therefore, Chinyang didn't bother to take care of Da Polo. He asked Robin to keep people under custody, and at the same time, he was about to leave. He went to the Revolutionary Army's dragon to trade, and sold the Gorosei, 5 elders in his hand. Desert Emperor Azir is still in the mandatory transformation period, so he stays on the island to guard. And Heilong left quietly. Of course, his body was huge, and the moment he left, he was discovered by countless people. As for the issue of Floating Sky Island, there is Golden Lion's fluttering ability, so don't worry, the other party has Aizen's ghost lurking in his body, forgive him and he doesn't dare to play any tricks. I saw the 10,000-meter giant dragon quickly shrink in size, and in a blink of an eye, it changed back to a 100-meter body, and then the dragon flicked its tail and flew away. After a while, Heilong left the airspace of the Seven Waters and headed towards the New World. The direction of the Vivre card is southwest. A floating voice came out, and at the next moment, a white light flickered above Heilong's head, and then the phantom god Chinyang appeared. Stretched out his right palm, and there was a white piece of paper in the palm of his hand. The piece of paper vibrated slightly, specifying a certain direction. Have to speed up. It should be far from 060. Sell Gorosei, 5 elders, and then have to find an auction venue. Thinking of this, Chinyang immediately controlled the sea dragon and drove at full speed. In fact, he can also use the shadow demon to jump in space, but there is no specific destination, and it is troublesome. Fortunately, he can use the sea dragon instead. Although the speed of the sea dragon is not as fast as that of the archangel, but in the case of 5 stars, it is not much slower. I saw above the sky, the shadow of a dragon passed by and quickly disappeared into the sky. 5 days later, somewhere in the waters of the New World, half of Heilong's body dived into the sea, but only part of his head surfaced, and above his head, Chinyang sat cross-legged. He lowered his head and looked at the Vivre card in his hand. Vivre card 5 days ago, the vibration is more obvious, and its direction is still moving slightly. It's very close. Huh. Suddenly, Chinyang raised his eyebrows, and a ship appeared in his perception. The boat is not big, there is only a human breath on it, and this breath is not unfamiliar, I am afraid it is an acquaintance. Chinyang fixed his eyes on it, his eyes seemed to penetrate several seas, and he saw a small raft and a bear sitting on the raft, with Erlang's legs crossed, his face quiet, and his head lowered. Interesting, the Revolutionary Army knows that I will pass here. Chinyang raised his eyebrows, and immediately controlled Sea Dragon to face the opponent. After about 10 minutes, the two approached, within 10 meters of each other. At B.U. The person who appeared in front of Chinyang was indeed a bear. His full name was Bartholomew Shang, one of the current King Shichibukai, and at the same time, his secret identity was a cadre of the Revolutionary Army. NLT.M. Shang closed the book and got up slowly from the stool, then looked at Chinyang flatly. Heilong Emperor Qin. His tone was very light, but he also revealed a hint of doubt. Why do you two look alike but have different temperaments? He met Heilong once. Back then in Sabayati Archipelago, Heilong fought with Kaido, and he helped Marine beat Chinyang to the giant island. And Marine seized the opportunity and suppressed Kaido, although he was later run away. Regarding this kind of question, Chinben was too lazy to answer, and said bluntly, this emperor came as agreed, where is the dragon? This, Bartholomew Shang was silent for a moment and said, Mr. Long is on the island, I will take you there. As he said that, he controlled the raft, approached slowly, and took off the glove of his right hand, revealing a Ruchu-like palm. I'm sorry, because we can't let you know where the specific stronghold is, so I can only photograph you. Bartholomew raised his right palm and slammed down towards Qin Yang. The Revolutionary Army is the main enemy of the world government and must be hidden in the dark, otherwise it will be struck by a thunderbolt and in danger of being destroyed. Of course Qin Yang can understand this kind of caution, but understanding is understanding, which does not mean that he will obey. Huh! Sounded, and Bartholomew slapped it with a palm, but Qin Yang raised his left arm and VV blocked. Boom! As if some ability was broken, a slight shock wave was generated under the collision of the palm and arm. Bartholomew Bear's pupils shrank, and his heart shook. What? He rarely showed surprise, and as a person with a calm personality, he rarely showed emotions. The Emperor will go there himself. Qin Yang's left arm shook, and immediately, Bartholomew Shang was knocked flying, and with a swoosh, he flew upside down for dozens of meters. Seeing that he was about to fall into the sea, Bartholomew Bear slapped the air with his right paw, and with a swish, he returned to the raft like a teleportation. He let out a breath, looked up at Qin Yang's eyes, and was already shocked. I am a Ruchu fruit ability person, a Ruchu person. I can bounce everything, including fatigue, pain, and even air. Since I acquired this ability, it is the first time it fails. Not knowing what to do, he spoke softly. This is a failure in the true sense, rather than relying on armament hockey, to resist the power of the bomb. The correct way to say it should be erasing. The moment he touched Qin Yang's body, his ability was erased. As expected of the legendary Qin Emperor who can suppress the dreamers, Bartholomew Shang stood up, took a deep look at Qin Yang, and said, "Then, come with me, I'll take you there." Seeing this, Qin Yang looked like this and motioned for Heilong to follow. At the same time, Heilong said, "Benlong is very curious, how did you know that we would appear here?" Fortune-telling fruit. In this regard, Shang did not hide the slightest. We fortuned when Emperor Qin would come, but it failed. It seems that there is a special force that is preventing the manifestation of the results of the fortune-telling. After that, we change the way to fortune-telling when the dream will come. And after a few times the results came out, and the answer showed that it was a sea dragon. Quote. After a pause, he said, I just didn't expect that Emperor Qin really came. Divination showed that Heilong would come, but in fact, it was Emperor Qin and Heilong. This is intriguing. Bartholomew Shang is not a fool, but after a little thought, plus the fact that Emperor Qin had wiped his Ruchu flying ability before, he came to a terrifying conclusion. This fantastic captain has the ability to erase the effects of devil fruits. Even the divination fruit cannot be used for divination. It is conceivable how terrifying this power is. That's how it is. Heilong chuckled and said, you are really cautious, but unfortunately, it is meaningless. Divination, curse killing, changing the past and so on, similar abilities are useless to Lord Qin. Hearing this, Shang nodded, ready to tell Long this information. I see, please forgive the previous offense, and now, please speed up. As he said that, the raft under his feet pushed away the waves and galloped away. Seeing this, Heilong flicked his tail and easily followed. 2 hours later, the two entered a special sea area. This sea area may seem ordinary, but the figure of the bear suddenly disappeared when it touched a certain position. The same is true for Qin Yang and the two, as if they passed through some kind of barrier. This is an illusion. Chapter 0285 Buying and Selling Gorose, 5 Elders 2. Ah, you guys ~orz close black lens bracket. This is an illusion. Passing through a layer of special enchantment, what came into sight was a large ship. The ship did not fly any flags, and on its deck, many people could be seen walking back and forth. Those with phantom fruit ability can hide the whole ship. Bartholomew Bear explained calmly. Really, Heilong chuckled lightly, it's really a revolutionary army full of talents. Of them arrived near the ship one after another. The people on that ship also noticed Qin Yang's arrival, and went up to the deck one by one, staring curiously. Bear, you're back. He is the master of the ocean, sea dragon. I heard that he can become a 10,000-meter body. This is Emperor Qin. Everyone was shocked. Emperor Qin offered a reward of 3 billion yuan. With the issuance of the reward order, his portrait was spread all over the world. Those present knew that Dream would come today, but they did not expect that even Emperor Qin would appear. For a while, everyone was silent and dared not speak loudly. The name of a man, the shadow of a tree. They would rather fight with Marine than get into trouble with the dreamy Emperor Qin. Qin Yang's expression was as usual, and he was unsmiling. He ignored the group of revolutionary troops, and jumped lightly, from the top of the sea dragon's head, onto the deck. At the same time as he landed, in the cabin, a man in a green coat walked out slowly, followed by a little boy behind him. The little boy is about 10 years old, wearing a top hat with goggles, short blonde hair, and a tooth is missing from his mouth. Not surprisingly, this person should be called Sabo. It's really surprising, I didn't expect Emperor Qin to come in person. Monkey D. Long stepped forward and welcomed him. While he was speaking, the bear whispered a few words in his ear. This kind of conversation, of course, could not be hidden from Qin Yang's ears. It just means that he has the ability to erase the effect of devil fruit. The result of the divination fruit for him was erased by invisible power. This emperor is here at the invitation, Shadow Demon. Qin Yang spoke softly. The next moment, a black smoke overflowed from his chest, and then condensed into a dark figure. This is what you want to buy. The Shadow Demon opened his mouth immediately, then waved his hand, tore apart the space, stretched out his hand, and grabbed an old man from the shadow world. The old man was bound by black ropes and was thrown on the deck by the Shadow Demon. Everyone stared at each other, all looking shocked. Really, Gorosei, 5 elders. Although I knew it before, but seeing it with my own eyes is really surprising. Dream really is a lunatic. Even the Gorosei, 5 elders dare to arrest, and the world government has not expressed it yet. Indication. Didn't they issue a bounty? Everyone whispered and commented on the old man Jian. Since this time, Qin Yang has not given the old man any food. Therefore, the old man is very weak at the moment, his face is pale, his lips are chapped, and he is in a half-dead state. Long looked at it for a moment, then smiled. Very well, this deal, we will do it. Terry. Understood. A middle-aged man wearing a bear helmet and smoking a cigarette responded, then took out a package from behind. He threw the package on the deck and unwrapped it, revealing several devil fruits inside. Qin Yang glanced at it to confirm that the fruit was real, and then gestured to the Shadow Demon. Seeing this, the Shadow Demon snorted coldly. This is just 5 fruits, playing tricks. The agreed price is 20 pieces, and there is no room for counter-offering. The moment the words fell, the world fell into darkness, as if the tranquility before the storm. Darkness is coming. Afterwards, a huge dragon power enveloped everyone, and immediately many people couldn't bear it and fell down with a thud. And Qin Yang stared at the dragon, waiting for the other party to say something. The atmosphere suddenly became stiff, and the members of the Revolutionary Army became alert, for fear that Dream would suddenly attack. Ha ha ha, don't worry, wait for me to finish. Long Ha Isho said, the price is still 20 pieces, but we can't get it at one time. The remaining 15 pieces will be delivered in the next 6 months. How? Their Revolutionary Army did not deliberately collect devil fruits. These fruits were captured inadvertently when the country was overthrown. Yes, Qin Yang cherishes his words like gold. Hearing this, the Shadow Demon immediately waved his hand, rolled up thick black smoke, and collected the 5 fruits in the package into the shadow world. The people are yours. The Shadow Demon pointed to the old man with the sword, and said, but if you don't deliver 15 pieces within half a year, we don't mind letting you pay the price of breaking the contract. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The sky turned back to day. This short dark night seems to have never existed. The huge dragon power that shrouded it also dissipated in an instant. Don't worry, we will keep our word. After all, we don't want to provoke you either. A revolutionary army cadre grabbed old man Jian, then glanced at Ying Yao again, and then spoke in a deep voice. He didn't dare to look at Qin Yang, just staring at him, he felt a lot of pressure. Then, the transaction is completed. Long smiled and said, "Thank you for the Gorosei, 5 elders you provided. This is very important to us. The price of 20 fruits is very low. Devil fruits, for them, while much needed, are nowhere near as important as the Gorosei, 5 elders." Qin Yang said lightly, "Monkey D. Long, the ideal of your revolutionary army is to overthrow the world government and build a more equal and free world. This emperor appreciates it very much, so I am waiting for the dream and can provide you with financial assistance." Quote. Hearing this, Long's expression froze, and he frowned. "Funded? How much?" 100 billion. Qin Yang quietly dropped a number. This is like a boulder, smashed into the tranquil lake, and suddenly caused a huge wave of the revolutionary army. 100 billion. I heard it wrong. It's 100 billion. I've never seen so much money in my life. You will never see each other in 10 lifetimes. A group of people couldn't help muttering, apparently stunned by this piece of pie. Their revolutionary army, wanting to promote their ideals and overthrow a brutal country, is in great need of funds. With enough money, their armed forces would expand faster and operate more smoothly. To fight is to fight for money. It can be said that their entire revolutionary army can't get 10 billion together, let alone 100 billion. Even Long couldn't help falling into a sluggishness. Fortunately, his reason was still there, and he quickly reacted. 8 is 100 billion. It's hard for me to believe that you are doing this just because you agree with our ideals. Long took a deep breath and said. He. Qin Yang chuckled twice and said, "Monkey D. Long, and everyone in the revolutionary army, the reason why this emperor came to complete this transaction in person is because I want to give you 100 billion in aid." Pause, he said, "Give you money, you will develop faster, and this emperor can also provide you with a lot of arms. You want to repay me, it is very simple, to overthrow the world government, forcing Tenryubito to take out the national treasure, to defend his status as a world noble. This is one of the purposes of Qin Yang's operation. He doesn't know what a national treasure is, but its existence can already shake the world. Maybe it is the king of ancient weapons, maybe it is a more terrifying force that surpasses ancient weapons. Dreams are not afraid of the world government, not false marine, if necessary, even now can plan to destroy them. But the only hidden danger is national treasure. The ghost knows what it is. What if it is a causal weapon? Or, is it the fruit of time that can travel back to the past and change the future? Even more, maybe a nuclear bomb-like weapon. So that's the case. Long suddenly nodded and said, "Do you want to divert the conflict?" "It's okay if you say that," Qin Yang said, "I'll give you 100 billion, and you will act as guinea pigs. If the national treasure is not worth mentioning, you will be able to achieve your ideals. If the national treasure destroys you, it is only you who are to blame. Bad luck. I wait for the dream, and I will avenge you." Quote. Ha, as expected of a dream. With a lot of money, 100 billion is smashed at one time. The dragon couldn't help laughing. "I agreed. You need to deflect the world government's direction, then we will act as a shield. The national treasure is the cornerstone of Tenryubito's rule of the world, and it will never be used unless there is a crisis of the regime's demise." He's not worried, at least not in the short term. Of course, he can also guess that the purpose of the dream does not stop there. However, it doesn't matter, there is no hatred between the revolutionary army and the dream, but there is a common enemy, the world government. Anyway, they are using each other. Very well, I hope you revolutionary army, don't let me down. Qin Yang nodded in satisfaction. A mere 100 billion. The last time he robbed Tenryubito, he robbed 200 billion in cash. Money, to him, doesn't mean much, it's just a bunch of numbers. It is an effective way to use it to finance the Revolutionary Army and to provoke the nerves of the world government. I'm afraid it won't be long before Tenryubito and the Gorosei, 5 elders will be overwhelmed. Chapter 0286 _ The World's First Auction, Opening. Providing 100 billion aid is not a one-off, including arms, will be given to you in batches. The shadow demon stared at the dragon and said solemnly, how exactly? Someone will talk to you at that time. All in all, if you want to get these aids, you have to pay a certain price. There is no such thing as a pie in the sky. Monkey D. Long is very clear that the dream of throwing a pie of 100 billion is obviously meant to intervene in the Revolutionary Army. Of course, just a little intervention, for the sake of funds, he has no complaints and can bear it. Secondly, the secret connection between our dreams and your Revolutionary Army must not be exposed. I know this. If you want to divert the conflict, the connection between us will not be exposed. Long nodded and said, it's just that the Revolutionary Army suddenly received a huge amount of funds, and the expansion rate will inevitably speed up, and the world government will also investigate. Source of funding. Quote. It doesn't matter, I can give you going later. Shadow Demon waved his hand and said, the first batch of aid, including 1 ton of going, and all kinds of arms, will let someone contact you after I go back. 1 ton of going is equivalent to 5 billion Baileys. Although compared to 100 billion, it is not worth mentioning, but as the first batch of aid, it is already quite large. That's fine. Long nodded with satisfaction. On behalf of the entire Revolutionary Army, I thank you for your fantastic gifts. Gift. Qinyang raised his eyebrows and corrected. It's aid, the two are different. Pause, he added. After you get the aid, start the action as soon as possible. In the short term, I want to see the results, otherwise, I will consider canceling the follow-up capital injection. Results. The middle-aged man with a cigarette couldn't help but ask, what kind of results? Within 3 months, the regimes of 5 countries will be subverted, and these 5 countries must be members of the world government. Qinyang said unceremoniously. The last time, it must be cultivated within the 5 countries. Rebels. Your dream is that you want us to come out from the dark and confront the world government on the bright side. Someone exclaimed. What? No, Shadow Demon said playfully. Do you think 100 billion is so easy to get? No, I agree. Long agreed decisively without thinking. Very good. Qinyang smiled, turned around and jumped to the top of Heilong's head, then, goodbye. Hope you all survive. Hee, I wish you all the best of luck. The shadow demon chuckled twice, his body scattered into black smoke, and disappeared in an instant. 7. Looking at the departure of the dreamers, a Revolutionary Army cadre couldn't help but said, will Mr. Long be too reckless? We are not strong enough now, and we are fighting against the world government and the world. Ha ha ha, don't worry, the dream is to push us to the front to deceive Tenryubito's national treasure, they won't let us be destroyed easily. You. Long smiled, his eyes flickering, besides, if dream pushed us out, we can also train rebels, just one by one. It's not much different from the past. Really, you still have to be careful about dreaming about them. They spend 100 billion, and they will definitely keep meddling in the internal affairs of the Revolutionary Army. Well, this is the key. Long murmured softly, I hope that Emperor Qin's appetite will not be too big. After negotiating the transaction and assistance, Qinyang sat on top of Heilong's head and left quickly. For assistance, let the shadow demon explain to Robin, and then leave it to the girl to handle it. The first batch of 5 billion plus arms aid was just throwing stones to ask for directions and attracting the Revolutionary Army to take the bait. Qinyang would not pay too much attention to this trivial matter. The most important thing right now is the #1 auction in the world. There are still less than 2 months before the auction, and the location must be decided first. Thinking of this, Qinyang reached out and took out a phone, then dialed the number. After a while, the phone was connected, and Doflamingo's voice came from the opposite side. Which one? It's me. Huh. Doflamingo was obviously stunned for a while, before suddenly returning to his senses. Emperor Qin. He took a deep breath. Do you have a suitable address for a super large auction? Qin Yang was too lazy to argue and asked directly. For about this matter, I just want to tell you. Doflamingo laughed strangely and said, actually, when Deputy Captain Eisen told me to contact the major forces some time ago, I was already preparing. Oh. In Sabayati Archipelago, I have a large auction hall. After this period of renovation, it has been expanded to a scale that can accommodate 50,000 people. It should be enough to handle the auction in more than a month. He grinned Isho, smug. In order to please the dream, he is also fully prepared. Qin Yang couldn't help laughing. You did a good job. After completing this incident, you can be considered as a member of the outer circle. The peripheral members are not as good as Robin. Robin is at least a chorus, and he is barely a full-fledged member of the dream. However, even the outer members couldn't help but make Doflamingo's eyes shine. Fu, of course I believe what Emperor Qin said. Don't worry, there will never be any problems at the auction venue. Hearing this, Qin Yang nodded. 50,000 people, barely enough. 3 days later, Heilong arrived at Sabayati Archipelago. You wait there. Understood. After the conversation, Qin Yang hung up the phone. I'm not used to having people run errands for everything. It should have been done by Doflamingo long ago. It saves a lot of effort. It seems that I have to make good use of it in the future. After putting away the phone bug, Qin Yang patted Heilong on the head, then his body flashed and disappeared in an instant. A white light sank into the sea dragon's body. Heilong, no, Qin Yang's dragon flicked his tail, and instantly burst into the highest speed, heading towards Sabayati Archipelago. After 3.4.2, at noon, a dragon descended suddenly. There is no secret, but it appears openly. Sabayati Archipelago from the sky, countless residents on the island stared up. It's the sea dragon, the dreamy sea dragon. The dream is coming, run. Ocean Master, hurry up and inform Marine. As if the end was coming, the island suddenly fell into a commotion, and countless people panicked and wanted to escape. And in Area 11, the top floor of a resort hotel, Doflamingo lay on a beach chair, basking in the sun leisurely. Hearing the report of his subordinates, he immediately stood up, took off his sunglasses, and threw them aside. The Don Quixote family, prepare to welcome Lord Sea Dragon. Chapter 0287 _ the first auction in the world, opening 2. The Don Quixote family, come with me Lord Sea Dragon. Doflamingo got up from his sun lounger, took off his sunglasses, and put on his usual white-framed sunglasses. He put on his pink feather coat, and then stepped onto the platform at the front of the roof and waited silently. Behind him, all the members of the Don Quixote family looked solemn, and Vivi bowed his head and greeted him respectfully. It didn't take long for a huge black shadow to block everyone's sight, and then, above the sky, the sound of dragon roars came. For welcome Lord Heilong. Doflamingo grinned Isho and Vivi bowed. And as his voice fell, a 100-meter dragon suddenly descended into the airspace ahead. Welcome Lord Heilong. All the family members shouted loudly one by one. The first thing you need to do today is to disperse the people of Sabayati Archipelago. The sea dragon hovered in the air, looking down at everyone, saying, Doflamingo, you directly inform Marine that the number 15 auction in the world that I am waiting for will be held at Sabayati Archipelago, and they will be happy to cooperate with your actions. Quote. Yes, no problem. Doflamingo nodded, then looked sideways. Pika, you go and inform Marine. Pika, the highest cadre of the Spades army, with the ability of stone and stone fruit, is burly and muscular. After hearing the order, he immediately turned around to do it. The rest Diamante, you take them to disperse the people, including ordinary pirates, and drive them away. Yes. Diamante, a middle-aged man wearing a red cape and a lace hat, is the top cadre of the Square Army. he responded and immediately led a group of family members to leave. Seeing this, Doflamingo looked up at Halong and said, "I don't know, what else is there to order?" "One more thing." Qinyong pondered and said, "I'm going to intervene in the Revolutionary Army, you provide them with a batch of arms." Involved in the Revolutionary Army. Doflamingo was stunned. The Revolutionary Army aimed to overthrow the world government. Unlike the pirates, there was an endless and irreconcilable contradiction between it and the world government. Dream suddenly wants to intervene in the Revolutionary Army. For a while, he was not allowed to make any sense. "You don't need to know the specifics, just recruit." Qinyong was too lazy to explain to him. Doflamingo holds a large number of arms deals in the dark world to assist the Revolutionary Army. It is not a gift, but a sale, but the price will be very low, Quan L. But no matter how cheap it is, you can definitely make money. Therefore, Doflamingo has no reason to refuse. Pay. Quan. Furfur, no problem, it's just a small matter. He chuckled and nodded immediately. Very well, now take Benlong to the auction venue. Qinyong is satisfied with his attitude. Next, Qinyong accompanied Doflamingo to the super-large auction venue in the number 1 area of Sabayati Archipelago. After arriving at the place, Qinyong couldn't help but be surprised by Doflamingo's construction speed. This auction venue has been expanded 3 times in one breath, covering an extremely wide area, more than enough to accommodate 50,000. It's just that it has not yet been fully completed, and at least it will have to wait for a month before it can be barely completed. Looking down at the venue from the air, Qinyong confirmed it was correct after turning around. Just choose here. Furfurfur, it's best to be satisfied. From tomorrow onwards, you go to inform the major forces and tell them the address. Qinyong ordered again. Need to send an invitation to the auction. It's not necessary. Ordinary people come as soon as they want, as long as they're not afraid of death. Qinyong chuckled lightly. At that time, Sabayati Archipelago will gather all the major forces in the whole world, and each party is not a good stubble. Ordinary people who dare to come here and provoke any one person may be killed. It is precisely because of this that Qinyong disperses the people. Although he does not care much about the lives of ordinary people, the reason for doing so is only because he is not the one running the errands. Furfurfur, I know, I'll get it done. Doflamingo grinned, eyes twinkling. This is a big event enough to be recorded in history, and as a member of the big event, he is standing at the center of the wave of the times. Roger, who is a big year, does not have such a big deal, that is, dreams can be achieved. If there is an unpredictable war in this auction then, after World War I, the world will truly enter a new era of domination by one emperor from the post-4 emperors era. Doflamingo thought to himself, feeling a little excited. Marine Headquarters, Marshal's Office. Sengoku got a notification from Sabayati Archipelago. What did you say? He slammed, smashing the desk in front of him for the 3rd time, dreamed to put the auction in the Sabayati Archipelago. Yes, yes, the soldier said frightenedly. Shichibukai Doflamingo, he is already dispersing the people on the island, and he asked us to arrange these people. Bastards. Dream about these lunatics. Sengoku was furious and wanted to slap the group of people to death. Sabayati Archipelago, right under the eyes of the headquarters, is Tenryubito's back garden, and holding an auction in this kind of place is provoking us. Provocation, naked provocation, apart from provocation, he can't think of a second reason at all. This kind of super large auction is not held in the New World, but on the terminal island of the first half of the Great Route. Anyone would think so. However, even if he knew it was a provocation, Sengoku didn't dare not cooperate. After all, there were at least hundreds of thousands of people in the Sabayati Archipelago. A deep breath, he gritted his teeth and ordered, let people keep an eye on all the movements of the Sabayati 547 islands, especially in the future, any forces that will log in must be recorded. Now let Kizaru handle the resettlement of the people. The problem. Yes. Wait, one more thing, let Garp keep an eye on the dream. Remember to report to me if anything goes wrong. Let Garp Vice Admiral. Yes, yes. General, it's not Garp's turn at all, unless even Admiral is already difficult to deal with, which is possible to use marine heroes. However, the dream fell into silence. The island in the sky above the seven waters was moved to the sky above the Sabayati archipelago one day. But that's all, nothing else has changed. During this period of time, the world seemed to have suddenly fallen into a strange silence, and the battles between the pirates were much less. Marine is constantly gathering troops, and has gathered 100,000 elite sailors from major bases and hundreds of warships, hoarding them in the waters behind the Justice Gate of the headquarters. Not only that, the 4 emperors, the 10 great families, the world government, the major powers, and even the ancient pirates who have retired have all come forward. Everyone is preparing for something, only the dream, without any action, fell into a state of silent disappearance. Time flies, and a month and a half have passed in the blink of an eye. This day is the day of the first auction in the world. Chapter 0288 _ The heroes gather. The wind is surging, and the heroes gather. Sabayati archipelago, more lively than usual. All the inhabitants of the island have been dispersed and have been relocated to Marineford by Marine. Now exist in the Sabayati archipelago are all from various forces in the world. The number of people exceeded 100,000, and the fish and dragons were mixed. If it weren't for the dreamy island in the sky floating overhead, it would have been a mess. Gathered towards Area 1. No need to specify, everyone can see that a magnificent building stands on the island. What's that? Suddenly, someone saw with sharp eyes that 26 wooden frames were inserted in front of the entrance of the auction venue, and a man was bound on each frame. These men were dressed by Bo Guang, and only a pair of shorts remained. They were pale, they were dying. The person on the far left is the captain of the Duobao pirates. And Shichibukai Crocodile, former Shichibukai Gecko Moria. They are all famous pirates. I see, I remember that some time ago, Dream caught a group of people and tied them up to show the crowd. It must be the 26 people in front of me. Cut, is this going to give us a blow? What happened in the sky above the seven waters some time ago is not a secret, and almost all forces have obtained relevant information. However, seeing these showmen at the entrance of the auction now makes me feel very upset. Dream is warning them all. However, at this moment, a laughter came. Fufufu welcome all heroes, to participate in this world's #1 auction held by Dream. Doflamingo descended from the sky and landed in front of a row of showmen. With a smile on the corner of his mouth, he took 2 or 8 steps and opened his arms as if hugging everyone. The number of people who came was much more than we expected, almost doubled, so I temporarily changed the rules. Doflamingo unknowingly used the title, I wait. He didn't feel anything, but those who had dealt with Dream were unhappy. Hi hooligan. Suddenly, a 20-meter-tall giant said in a deep voice, stop talking nonsense, when will the auction start? Doflamingo laughed out loud. His laughter was treacherous and cunning. Is it the kingdom of giants, the giant warrior of Elbaf? HMPH, I'm not a barbarian from Elbaf, I'm from Dakyana. The giant snorted, where is the dreamer? 7 = $. And GT, Dakyana, speaking of it, there is still a grudge between this giant country and the dream. Yin tilde. When Qinyang was taken by Shanghai and flew to an island inhabited by giants, he snatched their country's curse fruit. W. It was a super large devil fruit, and the power of one was equivalent to 3 ordinary ones. Of course, Doflamingo didn't know, let alone him. No more than 10% of the 100,000 people present knew about Dakyana. Dakyana, Doflamingo raised his eyebrows and recalled it in his mind, I've never heard of it. There are only a few giant kingdoms in the world. The most famous is, of course, Elbaf, and Dakyana is a family of reclusive giants. Really, the world has forgotten our existence, So today, declare to the world, our return." The giant snorted coldly and exhaled a hot breath from his nose. "Now, hi hooligan, won't you let us enter the auction venue?" "Furfur, please don't worry." Doflamingo swept his eyes, and at a glance, there were so many people that he couldn't see clearly at all. "Since there are too many people, so I will wait to screen the qualifications. Now I'm afraid there are more than 100,000 people, approaching 110,000 people. But only 50,000 people were able to enter the venue." Quote. As soon as these words came out, someone shouted in dissatisfaction, "What did you say? Half eliminated. Eligibility. Damn, are you kidding me? How much effort did we waste to get here from the New World? We waited for another half a month, and we didn't even let in the venue. Don't be too arrogant, Don Quixote Doflamingo. Go." The voice of condemnation came like waves. This is also suppressed by the ferocity of dreams, otherwise it would have been done long ago. "You know, none of the people who can come here are good people." To this, Doflamingo still grinned. "That's the rule, don't you agree? You can try it." Saying that, he stepped sideways, revealing the 26 showmen behind him. "Furfur, in fact, we have prepared a lot of wooden frames, and I'd be happy to plug in a few more." Hearing this, the scene calmed down for a while. But immediately another person said, "Don't be a jerk, hurry up, how to filter." Although there are more than 100,000 people, in fact, it is mainly some big forces, and the rest are just joining in the fun, wanting to get a bargain, or just to see the grand occasion of the #1 auction in the world. Since there are 50,000 places, there is no need to waste time, just follow the rules to go faster. About how to filter. Doflamingo was about to explain, and at this moment, above the heads of everyone, a man stood in the air and spoke lightly. His voice was very soft, and there was no microphone transmission, but it was clear as if it was ringing in a human ear. "Too slow, Doflamingo. Lord Eisen." Doflamingo raised his head. Vv's face stiffened. "I didn't expect that just entering the venue, it even alarmed the deputy captain." "Vice captain." Countless people's expressions changed, and they all looked up. I saw the man in the sky, with a big back, dressed in a slender white coat, which set off his posture. And on the man's waist, there is a long sword hanging. Chinyong put his hands in his pockets and glanced at the hundreds of thousands of people below. "Everyone, welcome to my dream auction. I'm Eisen, the dream vice captain." Having said this, Chinyang's words paused before saying, "Because there are many people coming, so there are only 50,000 people who can enter the venue. The rules for screening are very simple. If you can keep your legs upright, you can qualify." Quote. "What did you say? Spiritual pressure. Stand up." A group of people looked ugly. This kind of arrogant attitude, just looking at it makes me angry. In this regard, Chinyang's gentle Isho looked flat. "I don't mean to look down on you, I'm just telling a rule. Don't worry, I will gradually increase the Reiatsu until the number of people has dropped sharply to 50,000. Although it is very troublesome to control, I will try my best to be careful directly suppress you to death." As soon as the word, "dead," fell, in an instant, a huge spiritual pressure enveloped the entire #1 area. Boom. It was as if the sky was falling apart and the earth was shaking. Everyone felt that the eardrums were bulging, and the roaring sound kept coming. It seems that the whole world, at this moment, is shaking and shaking. In an instant, a total of 30,000 people, unable to hold on for even a second, fell to their knees with a thud. What? Someone was shocked. Chapter-281-300 Death. Boom. The whole earth was shaking, and the huge spiritual pressure was like substance, as if people were in a rainstorm, and they could clearly feel a heavy pressure pressing down on their heads. In an instant, more than 30,000 people, unable to hold on for even a second, fell to the ground with a plop. And more people have been forced to bend their knees and hold on. Impossible. What kind of spirit is this? Conqueror Hockey. No, some kind of power from a higher level. Damn it. It's the pressure on the soul, I can even hear the whining of the bones. The sound of gasping for breath kept sounding, and countless people were flushed, holding their breaths, not daring to move at all. For fear of taking a breath, he let himself out of his strength, unable to bear the heavy pressure. Of the more than 100,000 people, only a very few can remain calm under this spiritual pressure. And each of them is hidden in the crowd, and will not come out at this time. These people looked up at the blue dye above the sky, and their hearts were shaking. It's terrible. This is the power of the four emperors. This is the dreamy Deputy 953 Captain. The deputy leader of the monster group he is simply the devil. It seems that you have to be careful about this blue dye in the future. Just the momentum can suppress 100,000 people. This is not 100,000 trash fish. Conqueror Hockey can do something similar, but far less domineering, not even a redhead. These big forces talk to each other, and their faces are dignified. Fur. Doflamingo chuckled twice. Under this spiritual pressure, his face was as usual, without the slightest change. Compared to the spiritual pressure I endured last time, more than 30,000 people couldn't bear it, even less than 1/3. It's surprising. He looked at everything with interest. In the sky, Qin stepped on the void, his eyes were slightly condensed, and a layer of blue luster appeared in his pupils. At the same time, his whole body shone with a layer of bright light. The next moment, the spiritual pressure immediately surged. The vibration of the earth became more and more obvious and violent. This time, it was a real vibration, not the previous feeling, but just a vibration in the soul. This time, it directly affects the physical world. Immediately, thousands of people couldn't bear it anymore. They were sweating profusely and fell to the ground weakly, as if their souls were about to collapse. Oh, as expected of a hero from all walks of life, he is much more capable than he imagined. Qin put his hands in his pockets, and Vivi smiled. Let's praise you for the moment. You can stand under this kind of spiritual pressure. As a human being, you are already amazing. There are more than 60,000 people who keep standing. After hearing his words, there was a big man in the crowd with an angry face. Don't look down on people. Aizen, if you want to yield to half of the people just because of your arrogance, there is a limit to your arrogance. His words resonated with many people, and one after another, an angry gaze was cast over him. Qin didn't understand. Instead he said with a chuckle, you are the one who is arrogant. Does it make you proud just to endure 1/10 of my spiritual pressure? As soon as the voice fell, in an instant, the spiritual pressure surged again. Boom! As if the sky and the earth were torn apart, a huge roar sounded in my mind. Immediately, many people couldn't bear it, and the 7 orifices bleed, and the whole person passed out directly. And the big man from before, his face was even more horrified. He watched his knees drop, and finally knelt on the ground with a bang. Damn! He was sweating all over, struggling to persevere. In the end, it was still difficult to maintain the stability of the soul. His eyes turned white, and he fell directly. At this moment, all the pressure suddenly disappeared, as if it had never been seen before. Everyone felt their body light up, and then they suddenly realized that in less than a minute, their clothes were soaked with sweat, as if they had soaked in seawater. Is this the strength of the Dream Vice Captain? Someone murmured in horror. There is an existence that is even more terrifying than the Master Cadre. In just a short while, everyone had a new understanding of Aizen. However, Qin remained calm and just said softly, it's a little difficult to control, and nearly 70,000 people were eliminated accidentally. However, it doesn't matter. Congratulations to the rest of you, you all qualified. The number of qualified people is far less than 50,000, and I am afraid it is only in the early 40s. At the last moment, tens of thousands of people fell in one breath. It's all to blame for the idiot just now. If he insisted on provocation, he made others suffer a little more for nothing. However, the matter has come to this point, and no one cares about those eliminated ones. Can I go in now? A voice came from the crowd. Hearing this, Chin-young locked the other party at once. It was a man in a cloak who deliberately covered his face and listened to his voice. He was quite old, at least 50 years old. In the spiritual pressure before, this person seemed very relaxed, and he was considered to be the top group among the 100,000 people present. He. Chin-young smiled and said, "You can enter. But before that, I'll tell you the rules of this auction. I'll wait for the dream rules." And many people were angry inside, but no one jumped out to provoke. What's the rule? We provided about 50,000 seats for the #1 auction in the world. There are 4 floors up and down. The first floor, 48,000 seats. The second floor, 3,600 seats. The third floor, 240 seats. Fourth floor, 12 seats. Hearing this, someone frowned immediately and asked, "What do you mean?" Chin-young explained, "It's very simple. People on the lower 2 floors do not have the right to bid. Only those on the upper 2 floors can participate in the auction." What? The man's expression changed. You dream of holding an auction, but you still don't let anyone bid. So what? Chin-young swept the man and said calmly, "This is my rule, those who violate it die." Hearing this, the man immediately stopped talking. He can also guess why there is such a rule. I am afraid that there are too many people participating in the auction. In order to avoid trouble, Dream gives a grade directly. If you want to auction, you must first qualify to bid. I forgot to tell you. Suddenly, Chin-young said playfully again, "If you want to climb to the 3rd and 4th floors, you have to be careful. The stairs there are not easy to walk, and the seats are limited." After speaking, Chin-young turned around and left. A word floated by. "Doflamingo, gate of opening welcome." Understood. Doflamingo he isho, with a wave of his hand, the door of the auction opened immediately. The sound of clicking sounded, and 2 thick doors dozens of meters high were slowly opening a gap. Welcome to the #1 auction in the world. Chapter 0290 The 10 Rulers. Welcome to #1 in the world auction. Accompanied by Doflamingo's voice, behind him, 2 thick gates dozens of meters high are slowly opening. Everyone looked at it intently, and saw a long passage behind the gate, with delicate lights on both sides of the passage leading all the way to the auction venue. By the way, what is that golden disc above the auction house? Suddenly, someone couldn't help but speak. Immediately, many people looked up, and sure enough, above the auction, they saw a floating going disc. It floated there quietly, turning slowly. Who knows, hurry in and grab a spot. Soon, more than 40,000 people began to pour into the venue. After passing through the long passage, a group of people finally entered the auction hall. The hall is round and very wide. There is a red high platform in the center. In the center of the high platform, there is a wooden frame, and there is nothing on the shelf. The seats of all participants are distributed in a semi-arc shape, divided into 4 floors up and down. The first floor is just seats, the second floor is slightly better, and the third floor is more upscale, with only 240 seats. As for the fourth floor, it was even more luxurious. It was a private room with a glass wall on the inward side. Sitting in it, you could clearly see the specific conditions of the entire auction. What a big auction! There are only 12 top private rooms. Just to prepare for this auction, I'm afraid it will cost tens of billions of funds. Ha ha ha, 12 private rooms, one belongs to our Doran pirates. Suddenly, in the crowd, a sloppy man wearing a hat burst into laughter, and in a single leap, he was about to leave for the 4th floor space. Doran pirates. The pirates in the chaotic sea are a major force that has re-emerged after the 3 pirates of Storm, Unicorn, and Lance disappeared. The captain is Doran Nago, with a bounty of 820 million. It is rumored that Doran is a hybrid of fish man and a human. I don't know if it's true or not. Many people exclaimed. Empty walk. Duolin stepped on the void, and the whole person was like a cannonball, rushing to the fourth floor with a swoosh. However, at this moment, a holy light shone, and the holy light enveloped the entire auction venue. A six-winged archangel, spreading his wings, radiating holy light. If you want to go to the fourth floor, take the stairs. You go down. The archangel flew into the air, stretched out his right palm, and pressed it in the air. Immediately, a ray of light, a sacred force, turned into a shock, swallowed Doran Nago in an instant, and hit him back with a single blow. What? The expressions of the Doran pirates changed slightly as they watched their captain fall. It's the master of the dreamy sky, Archangel. Someone looked heavy. Take the stairs. Where are the stairs? Everyone looked around, looking for a passage to the upper floors. However, at this moment, a figure appeared in the number 1 private room. Marine, someone said incredulously with wide eyes. Appeared in private room 1 was Marine Marshal Sengoku, but Sengoku looked a little embarrassed, with messy hair and unsteady breathing. Behind Sengoku, 6 more people appeared, namely Marine Admiral Akainu, Kuzan, Kazaru, Vice Admiral Garp, Crane, and another man in his 30s, who was wearing a white coat with his hands in his pockets. Among the several people, only this man was in good condition, and the rest were more or less breathing, and this man looked like a scientist. He, congratulations, you are the first to pass through. The Archangel let out a low laugh and congratulated him. It's just that Sengoku's face is not very good for this false congratulations. What do you mean by dividing the bidders into 3, 6, and 9 classes, and setting up barriers at the entrance of the private rooms? No comment. The Archangel was too lazy to answer, and then looked at the people below. If you want to enter the upper floor, please take the stairs. By the way, if you want to enter the private room on the 4th floor, there will be a small test. Only after passing the test can you sit on the 12 thrones. There is still an assessment. The previous Captain Doran was angry. Don't be too deceiving. Come to participate in this auction to give you face. You can go. The Archangel glanced at him and said, I'm not afraid to tell you that there are currently 12 private rooms, except for number 1, and the other 11 private rooms are being assessed. Unlike you idiots, smart people have already taken action. Quote. Hearing this, someone's complexion changed slightly, turned around and walked towards the stairs. And seeing this person's actions, more people also began to set foot on the stairs and go to the top. However, most of them stayed in the lobby on the 1st floor. They didn't compete for the bargaining chip of Hades' blueprint, and they believed that they couldn't get the position on the 3rd or 4th floor. Fortunately, they joined in the fun. Fur. At this time, Doflamingo stepped onto the red platform in the center, facing the crowd of bidders, and said, there is still an hour before the auction starts, please wait quietly. This time, there was no more objection. They sat down honestly, closed their eyes, talked in a low voice, or looked up. And soon, a newcomer appeared in the private room on the 4th floor. 2. The Whitebeard pirates showed up, including a group of cadres, similar to Marine. Whitebeard and others were a bit embarrassed. Afterwards, qualified persons appeared in private rooms 3, 6, 7, and 9. Everyone is the same, they all look very embarrassed, and they look at the Archangel with a strong sense of alertness. Assessment. What is it? The people below couldn't help murmuring. Every force seems to be embarrassed. This is not a coincidence, something must have happened. The Archangel chuckled, flapped his wings, and flew to the opposite side of the 12 private rooms. There was also the 4th floor, but there was a row of seats. The Archangel sat on one of the chairs and closed his eyes. After a while, a sea dragon with a body length of 10 meters flew out and landed on a chair as well. The sea dragon was coiled into a ball, with its head hanging down, and squinting for a nap. A few minutes later, a man in dark armor walked out from the back. He was full of cold air, walked to Halong's side, and sat down directly. Hey, the sky is the ruler, the ocean is the ruler, the earth is the ruler. The three dream ruler level cadres. No, the seats are obviously divided into grades. The most central chair is obviously reserved for Emperor Qin. To the left of Emperor Qin is the position of the deputy captain, Lan Ran, and the three masters are below, but the number of chairs is wrong. Aside from the captain and vice captain, there were actually 10 chairs of the same level as the dominant cadre. Impossible. Someone was shocked and paled. I think too much. I definitely think too much. How can there be 10 master-level cadres in the dream? As if hearing this sentence, in the void, a blue die in white is walking out slowly. He took the position of the co-captain and looked at this man with a playful gaze. It's a pity, I'm waiting for the dream, there are indeed 10 masters. As soon as these words came out, the audience changed. Even the top forces in the 4th floor private room were shocked. Impossible. Sengoku was shocked. Chapter 0291-Samsung Phantom Power. The 10 Rulers. This simply subverts everyone's previous perception of fantasy. 1. Sengoku, who had just sat down for a while, stood up suddenly, his face full of shock. Impossible. You only have a few cadres and only a few members. How can there be 10 dominant cadres? So far, the number of intelligence Marine has collected about the dream members has only exceeded 10. Now, there are 10 leading cadres alone. How can people believe this kind of thing, dare to believe it? He. Aizen smiled and didn't bother to explain. And at this moment, on the seat of the 10 masters, a touch of emerald light appeared, as if it was the season of recovery of all things. Everyone felt like a spring breeze, and their restless minds calmed down. A ray of the voice of life rang, and the pleasant sound of ding ding dong dong came. The next moment, the green light was flourishing, a beautiful man, a man who was much more beautiful than a woman, quietly sat on a chair. I am the master of life. The man's voice was light, and after he finished speaking, he closed his eyes and stopped talking. Master of life. Everyone was shocked and had a premonition in their hearts. I am afraid that the 10 masters of the dream are all real and are about to appear. Sengoku's face changed, his right hand Vivi was shaking, and there was a great fear in his heart. If the dream does not mess around, the combat power of the dominant cadres is equivalent to the 4 emperors, and then 10 masters are 10 4 emperors. The 10 4 emperors have more than enough to suppress the whole life. Impossible. How is this possible? In the private room number 3, a young woman said blankly. However, everything that followed seemed to laugh at her ignorance. On the Dominion seat, the electric light flickered, and the manic power of thunder and lightning radiated out, quickly turning into a figure. The man was naked, showing his strong muscles, and there was a lightning tattoo on his forehead. I'm the master of thunder light. The man grinned Isho, admiring the dull face. It's this expression, I like it very much. Ha ha ha. In the loud laughter, on the right-hand side of the Thunderlight Master, a starlight shone, and then it was like the Milky Way descending, and the endless starry sky appeared. Within the starry sky, a figure walked out. The man had a mysterious temperament and a grim expression. After he appeared, he sat down without saying a word. He is the master of the stars. The archangel said. Hey, another master. Someone gasped, already shocked to the point of numbness. Every ruler that appears is extremely terrifying, and at first glance, it is not a good stubble. It's unbelievable that there are actually 10 masters in the dream, and the power shown before is only a corner of their iceberg. Ocean, sky, earth, life, thunder, starry sky and 4 more. On the 3rd floor of the venue, the head of a certain force frowned and whispered. Tilde iota. As if responding to his words, a man suddenly appeared on the right side of the Star Lord. Thin. The man dressed in blue clothes appeared silently, as if he himself existed here, but at this moment, it could be observed by humans. I am the master of the mind. The man said softly, his voice seemed to sound directly in the hearts of everyone. I can hear the voice in your heart, you are afraid and afraid. As soon as the voice fell, before anyone could digest it, two more figures appeared. I am the master of time and space, set foot in the long river of time and space, and spy on the future and the past. I am the ruler of yin and yang. The two came together, and after they appeared, they all sat down. Of the 10 major rulers, 9 appeared, which shocked everyone present. The reality is always more dramatic than imagined, and all the big forces in the private rooms have fallen into extreme silence. No one could speak, and the appearance of the 10 major rulers made them almost lost their minds. At this moment, everyone hid their thoughts, absolutely did not want to make trouble at the auction, and let go of the idea of trying to snatch the blueprints. This is simply impossible to accomplish. There are 10 major rulers sitting in front of them, and they provoke 10 4 emperors in one go. Not to mention, there are also deputy captains who surpass the 4 emperors level, as well as the captain who can quell these murderers, Emperor Qin. 9 people have appeared now. I don't know who the other one is. In private room number 2, Marco the Phoenix said with a wry smile. His voice came out, and soon there was a response. It's the abyss. Sengoku's face was gloomy, and he stared at the 10 seats in front of him. Master of the abyss, the great demon lord of fear. Right, Aizen. Clap clap clap. Aizen malfunctioned and said with a smile, yes, the 10th is the abyss master, but if he is not there, he will not come. The 10th chair can only be empty. Hearing this, Sengoku moved inwardly. It has been a long time since he encountered the great demon king of fear in the dream, and it seems that the dream can't find each other. Could it be that what happened? Shaking his head, he didn't think much about it for the time being, but said solemnly, since the masters have already arrived, your Emperor Qin should also come out. Don't worry, Marine. 12 runes and the last one has yet to arrive. Aizen couldn't help laughing, admiring the many faces that were scared to death. Meanwhile, the dream world. This is a gobi, yellow sand and dust, and the wind is howling. Qinyang looked at the group of people in front of him calmly. 4 emperors Kaido, and the 2 major disasters under Kaido's command. In addition to this, there are also a group of troops dressed in the same clothes, all dressed in black suits, and the number is 10. What's the matter? Opened the door of private room number 12 and appeared here. Drought Jack shouted, Qin Emperor. Why don't you explain? In this regard, Qinyang was stern, didn't bother to pay attention, but looked at Kaido. You are out of luck. After the gate of opening, the 12 private rooms will enter their respective assessment venues. In each venue, there will be a cadre or a master cadre that I have dreamed of. If you want to leave here, you can only repel the gatekeeper. People. Beat you. Kaido's face was extremely ugly. That's impossible. Qinyang said indifferently, as long as I can move one step, you can leave here. What the hell do you mean? Kaido was furious. We come to the auction according to the rules, you set the level on purpose. It's funny. What's the purpose? Purpose. It's the rules. If you don't follow the rules, either go, or die. Okay, I'll try it today, can I crush you to death? Kaido laughed in anger, and under the impulse, he immediately started. Seeing this, Qinyang exhaled. This breath came out, and the thunderlight immediately prospered, turning into a 9-headed thunder dragon and roaring in the sky. What? The locust plague's face changed greatly. What kind of power is this? Everyone knew that Emperor Qin was very strong, but no one knew exactly how powerful he was. The ability of the thunder dragon in front of him simply subverts common sense. What ability? Qinyang Isho 5.5, but kept silent. Illusory God Qinyang. Star rating. Ability 1, Phantom Manipulation. Ability 2, Delusional Obliteration. Ability 3, Illusion Embodiment. This is the ability of the 3-star Phantom God, whether the Thunder Dragon in front of him, or the sudden appearance of several masters at the auction site, or all products of phantom manifestations. They are not phantoms and have no stars. Starry sky, thunderlight, life, time and space, mind, yin and yang, these 6 masters are just a shell, and they do not have the combat power of the master, but they are powerful enough to scare a group of people, which is naturally trivial. 10 rulers, Qin Yang chuckled inwardly. It's true or false, now the people in the auction venue are already frightened. However, although it is an illusion, it does not mean that they really lose their combat effectiveness. At least the 9 thunder dragons in front of me are real. Go. Soon as it fell, the 9-headed thunder dragon roared and flew towards Kaido and the others. Chapter 0292 Sky High Auction 1. Third update regarding the top 10 masters. Let me mention a little, except for the original 4, the remaining 6 are all transformed by the ability of the 3-star illusion gods. In fact, there is no master-level combat power, they are all fake, but the name is real, and it will appear one by one in the future, especially the Master of Time and Space. You can know by looking at the name, you can travel the world close black lens bracket. Go. Qin Yang gave an order, and immediately, the 9-headed thunder dragon opened its mouth and roared, carrying the power of manic thunder, and flew towards Kaido and others. Roar! Roar! The 9 dragons have descended on the heads of everyone in Kaido. At this moment, a man in a black suit and sunglasses stepped forward and stopped in front of everyone. I'm coming. He had a strong body, and after walking out, he immediately stretched out his hands. In an instant, a transparent glass appeared in front of him. Dream Emperor Qin, I'm from the Pygmies family, one of the kingdom's guards, the one who can bounce back the fruit, and the bouncer. During the speech, 9 thunder dragons had already hit the transparent glass. In an instant, the space seemed to ripple like 15 Buddhas. At the same time that the ripples were born, the 9 dragons disappeared into it. The next moment, the man in the suit shouted, Thunder Dragon! CC! Lightning flashed, and suddenly, Kowloon appeared again, but the direction of its attack was already opposite, coming towards Qin Yang. It's kind of interesting, it can actually bounce my illusion back. However, from the point of view of the fact that you need to control with both hands, you can only reflect on a certain side. If you attack from multiple sides, this ability is not very useful. Qin Yang looked calm, and just stretched out his left palm. Roar! Thunder Dragon roared and fell towards Qin Yang. Disappear! Qin Yang grabbed it with one hand and forcibly wiped out the thunder power of 9 dragons. In the blink of an eye, everything vanished. Qin Emperor! At this moment, Kaido suddenly approached, and his raised right fist, wrapped around Conqueror Haki, was majestic, as if a single blow could shatter the island. Dare to attack me closely, as expected of a reckless man. Qin Yang was unmoved and still grabbed it with one hand. Boom! When the fists and palms collided, a shock erupted in the space, and the remaining waves spread, as if a gust of wind swept through, and some people nearby were immediately forced to retreat. What? However, Kaido's expression changed slightly, and he blurted out, my Haki was actually smashed. No, it disappeared. He didn't keep his hand. Although he couldn't achieve a full-strength strike, he still used 80% of his strength. However, such a strike was easily blocked by the opponent with one hand. Why? However, for this reason, Qin Yang couldn't help but raise his eyebrows, and secretly said in his heart, what a strong brute force. Just in terms of brute force, this guy is probably the strongest level, more powerful than a giant. Of course, it was almost impossible to repel him by brute force. Enter. After the 0th Phantom God reached 3 stars, his physique was already very strong, comparable to the real dragon body of a sea dragon. As long as we move one step, we pass the level, right? At this time, another man in a suit walked out. He changed his body and turned into a huge wheel, turning rapidly on the spot, making a harsh sound. I belong to the Pygmies family, one of the kingdom's guards, the person with the ability of the fruit of the wheel. Ejection. Whoosh. From stillness to rapidity, this person's speed has already exceeded the limit of human eye observation. In almost an instant, he crossed a distance of dozens of meters and slammed into Qin Yang from the side. Facing this blow, Qin Yang's reaction was very quick. He quickly stretched out his right hand and slapped it in response to the opponent's impact. Fantasy annihilated. Snapped. As if something shattered, the transformation of the man in the black suit was forcibly contacted, and before he could recover, the next moment, a shock came out. Boom. He flew upside down, flew out of the gobi in one breath, and fell off the cliff. Ah! A scream came, causing everyone present to change color. It really is the ability to erase the effect of devil fruit. Locust Calamity was awe-inspiring, damn it. Does he have the same power as Seastone? No, Seastone only makes the capable person powerless, but it cannot erase the ability itself. The person with the ability to rebound fruit shook his head, however, it seems that there must be direct physical contact. Hearing this, Qin Yang slowly pulled his hand away and said, "You are leisurely analyzing my abilities. The Pickney's family, the guards of the top 10 families. I don't know how many of the top 10 families are here this time. Among the top 10 families, half are old acquaintances, and the rest are more unique and deserve to be locked up a little. Example, the Vinsmoke family in North Blue, and the Pickney's family in front of them. These people must have devil fruits in their hands, and they will have to deal with them sooner or later." The reason why he set up the checkpoint is to see how many fruits this group of people are carrying and which forces have joined forces with each other. Of course, the result was gratifying. In order to get the blueprint of Hades, the major forces in the 12 rooms, except for Whitebeard, all prepared at least 20 pieces. Among them, the marine side has prepared nearly 40 pieces, and I am afraid that they have taken out Tenryubido's collection library. I won't play with you anymore. Thinking of this, Qin Yang suddenly stopped. It's a fantasy to force me to take a step back with you. This time I'll let you pass. The exit is under the gobi, you just jump down and just can go out. See you later. After speaking, Qin Yang turned around and left, took a step forward, and disappeared into the dream world in an instant. At the same time, the auction venue. On the 4th floor, above the 10 dominant seat, on the high chair at the apex, ripples appeared in the space. Qin Yang took a step and walked out of the dream world, along with Nicole Robin and Ligiette. Ligiette, as a prisoner, helped Mengmeng to open up the dream world and set up a checkpoint this time. Considering that she was so useful, Qin Yang also allowed her not to be imprisoned. The two accompanied Qin Yang to the scene, and then quickly retreated to the side. This is a place where the ruler can only sit, and they are not even qualified to stand. When everyone saw the appearance of Emperor Qin, they cheered up. Instant, dozens or hundreds of observation hockeys approached the throne. Humph! Heilong snorted coldly, and Longwei instantly enveloped the audience. Seeing this, these observation hockey fading like a tide. However, Rao is so, this startling glance also shocked countless people. It's unbelievable. Observation hockey probed the past and couldn't even find his breath if it wasn't visible to the naked eye. I would suspect that he didn't exist at all. Someone took a deep breath and murmured inwardly. Fur. Doflamingo stood on the red high platform, glanced at Emperor Qin, and then said, "The last private room number 12 has also been occupied. It is the 4th Emperor Kaido, congratulations." Kaido's face was ugly, he groaned angrily, and sat down directly. He didn't know how the others were. Anyway, on his side, if Emperor Qin hadn't released the water and let him go, he might not have had a chance to come in. So Doflamingo's congratulations, in his view, were mockery. However, Doflamingo didn't know, and he didn't bother to lock it up. Since everyone has arrived, the number 1 auction in the world will officially begin. There is only one item in the auction, the design drawing of the ancient weapon Hades. Chapter-281-300 Sky High Auction 2. 48,000 halls on the 1st floor, 3,600 seats on the 2nd floor, 240 seats on the 3rd floor, and 12 private rooms on the 4th floor. Everyone was there, and Doflamingo announced the official start of the auction. Before I start, I will tell you about the auction rules. He looked up at the bidders on the third and fourth floors and said, "The bidding chips, only devil fruits are accepted. Now, let's take a look at the only auction item this time." As soon as his voice fell, on the red platform, wisps of black smoke emerged, and the black air rolled around, gradually condensing into a figure. The shadow demon was pitch black, suddenly opened his eyes, and the next moment, his right hand grabbed the space ahead. Immediately, the space was torn apart, and the shadow demon's right hand went deep into the crack. After a while, he grabbed a stack of packaged blueprints. The drawings are stacked up to the thickness of a finger, and the number of sheets exceeds 50. On each drawing, there are extremely complex graphic and text descriptions. Pluto. With the appearance of the drawings, the bidders at the scene showed their hot eyes, staring at the stack of drawings, and their mood was difficult to calm down. Get it, you will get the power to subvert the world. Fur. Doflamingo laughed twice, took the blueprint from the shadow demon, and placed it on the mahogany shelf. Afterwards, a shadow image phone bug rose from under the wooden frame, and the phone bug projected the top drawing on a large screen for the left and right to watch. In an instant, countless Tao realizations were realized, just staring at it, and I couldn't help but be a little stunned. What is this? Ancient script. I don't understand. This is really the blueprint of Hades. Of course, the existence of Hades can be traced back to 800 years ago, and its design drawings, of course, are ancient texts. Many people whispered, and the big forces in the 12 rooms were also talking in a low voice. The big screen changed. Every 30 seconds, it switched to a projected drawing, and it finally stopped after a full 10. Doflamingo said loudly, "This is the blueprint of Pluto. The complete set, without any falsehood. With it, you can build a Pluto battleship from scratch. The power of a super battleship can destroy an island with one shot." After a pause, he chuckled again. Of course, there are very few people in the world who can understand ancient writing. Even if you get it at auction, it will take countless effort to understand it. If you want to build it, it will cost a lot of money. Quote, "I am afraid that it is not possible to complete the funds of hundreds of billions of dollars. Of course, you have to be able to understand, otherwise it is meaningless." However, having said that, none of these forces on the third and fourth floors were disappointed. In this situation, they had long expected that although people who knew ancient scripts were very rare and almost extinct, it was not impossible. And the funding issue is not an issue. The only trouble is the time it takes to build it. During this period of time, how to ensure that oneself will not be targeted by other forces. Seemingly seeing the hesitation of these people, Doflamingo sneered at Isho again and said, "We will take a secret auction later, and I won't reveal the bidder's information. The secret shot is that everyone makes a quotation. According to all the quotations, Dream selects the highest 3 and explains it. There are usually 3 rounds, and after 3 rounds, the person with the highest bid wins." No. Suddenly, in private room number 1, Sengoku's voice sounded, "Who can guarantee that you will not cheat?" Sengoku's eyes swept to Chin Yang. Between Marine and Dream, it was a long-standing grudge, an old rival. If he thinks from another perspective, Sengoku feels that he will definitely not let his opponent get the blueprint. Even if the bid is the highest, he can do a little trick. In response, Chin Yang slowly opened his eyes and said softly, "Rules, don't obey, get out." You. Sengoku's face was ashen, and he gritted his teeth. But looking at the top 10 rulers in the seat, he abruptly pressed down. Seeing this, everyone below felt amused. The world can be so hockey, pointing at Sengoku's nose and scolding the pirates. Apart from Chin Emperor, I am afraid it is difficult to find the second one. HMPH, even if someone else wins the auction, we still have a way to recycle it. This is what our Marine is looking at first. Sengoku snorted coldly, looked at a scientist in his 30s, and said, "How about the drawings?" "It's very complicated." Vivi, a man in a white coat, said with a smile, "I only read 10 sheets, and I can't understand the text, but the design drawings and the related symbols are the same. The authenticity of this drawing is in the more than 60%. Quote. Hearing this, Sengoku nodded, since you say so, then we have to take it at any cost. Similar conversations are taking place in various private rooms and seats on the third floor. Seeing this, Doflamingo announced loudly again, finally, before starting the auction, we deliberately announced a free information. After my dream interpretation, the burial site of the battleship Hades is hidden on this drawing. It's a real ancient warship, lying in a corner of the world now. For Ofra, if you don't want to build it yourself, you can find it yourself based on the clues. When the words came out, the audience was shocked. What? There is a ready-made Hades hidden somewhere in the world, with a map in the blueprint. To this kind of gossip, Doflamingo ignored it, but said, then, the starting price is 0 fruits. The first secret auction, please bidders on the 3rd and 4th floors, pick up a black beside the chair card, write your bid price on it, and the time is 5 minutes. Quote. Hearing this, everyone looked down, and sure enough, they saw 3 black cards beside their seats. The black card is made of unknown material, and it emits black aura. Someone first wrote a number, and at the moment of writing, the black card and the number dispersed into a cloud of black smoke in the blink of an eye. 5 minutes are fleeting. Soon, the 3 figures with the highest bids appeared on the projection screen. 51, 58, 61. Hi. Doflamingo sucked in a breath, his face full of shock. Although I knew the price would not be low, such a high bid was far beyond expectations. You know, this is a devil fruit, 50 or 60 fruits, even if the world government wants to collect it, I don't know how many years it will take. These forces present are simply extremely rich. Even Chinyong himself was startled by Vivi, and then suddenly reacted. A single force does not have so many fruits. The most is about 40 of marine, as sure enough, there are forces that have joined forces with each other, so I don't know who and who. He glanced at the 12 private rooms, and these 12 major forces may have joined forces with each other. However, this is not important, all he needs is the fruit, and they love to fight for the drawings. And this, Chinyong can think of, and the people in the 12 private rooms can also think of it. Suddenly, the atmosphere became weird. Sengoku's face grew gloomy, feeling that things were very difficult. Tsuru Vice Admiral sighed. Someone must have teamed up with each other, otherwise they won't be able to get so much fruit. This is the first round, and in the 3rd round of dark auctions, I am afraid that the auction price may exceed 100 at that time, even the multi-party forces join forces. Quote. Price exceeded 100 fruits. Sky-high auction, a drawing, is it really worth it? If someone asks, anyone with big ambitions will answer in the affirmative. Value. Chapter-281-300 Devil Fruits. 51, 58, 61. The 3 highest auction prices were projected on the big screen, shocking many people, including Doflamingo. Someone actually produced more than 60 pieces. What a joke. Where did so many fruits come from? Isn't it a false price? It's just the first round of secret auctions. It's not impossible to falsely report the price. That's really courting death, not afraid to provoke the dream. These voices of discussion came from the lower 2 floors. These people did not have the right to bid, and most of them were followers of the upper 2 floors. The people on the upper 2 floors were relatively calm, but their expressions were not very good. 3. A young woman couldn't help frowning, looked at the middle-aged man beside her, and said, Father, if it weren't for marine, other single forces would not be able to get it. I'm afraid someone will join forces. Hearing this, a young man with blonde hair sneered and said, in the first round, the price was raised to 61. The person who would do this might be them. Saying that, he looked at private room number 5. The middle-aged man sitting on the chair said calmly, the price of 61 is beyond our ability. The next 2 auctions, Mana, you don't have to bid. Don't participate in the auction. The woman known as Mana couldn't help being stunned. "Father, this is a drawing of Hades, so just gave up." "No, the auction is just the beginning," the middle-aged man said in a low voice. "The real competition will take place after the auction is over. Even if the auction gets the blueprint, it is still a question of whether we can leave Sabayati alive. The Lore's Bounty Hunters League, the blueprint is bound to win." Quote. The Flores Bounty Hunter Alliance is a force in the New World. It gathers a large number of bounty hunters. The General Pirate Group is not an opponent of this alliance at all. In the private room number 5, there are a group of men with ferocious faces, and everyone looks cold. They are a mafia in the New World, with forces in dozens of countries, and the leader is the Otis family, which ranks 10th among the top 10 families. As soon as the price of the first round of secret auctions came out, the forces in the 12 private rooms began to guess each other. Someone must have joined forces, but I just don't know who and who. Below, Doflamingo observed all this, and said with a low laugh, "The first round of dark shooting is over, and the 3 highest prices are 51, 58, and 61. Next, let's go to the second." Speaking of this, his words suddenly stopped, and after a moment of stunned, he nodded and said, "I just got the news. I will give you a 10-minute rest period, and during this time, you must not leave your respective seats." Quote. 10-minute break. Many people were stunned, and then they responded one by one. Dream is giving the major forces time to react. Is it time to let them connect with each other in private, and then raise the price even higher? It's not hard to guess. It's better to say that this is the first reaction. On the 4th floor of the throne, Qin Yang's calm gaze swept over, as if he could penetrate the heart. The reactions of the major forces are all under his control. Private Room 1, Marine. Room 2, Whitebeard Pirates. Private Room 3, New World Bounty Hunter Alliance. 4, an unknown force should be a pirate. 5, one of the top 10 families, the Mafia of the Otis family. Room 6, Fans. 7, Fans. 8, a Pirate Alliance, including the Unicorn Captain Andy Poland, and the Blood and Blood Fruit Ability Lance. 9, several people wearing black cloaks should be very old, at least in their 50s or 60s. Who they are, Qin Yang has never heard of them. 10, one of the top 10 families, Vinsmoke, the Murder family. 11, one of the top 10 families, the Delgado family, with an ancient surname. In the private room, there are even 2 giants. Room 12, the Kaido Pirates, and the Pickneys family. Of course, the above is only the situation in the 12 private rooms. On the 3rd floor, there are 240 seats, which hide more forces. At least Qin Yang has seen a few old antiques, the remnants of the Roger era, but these people are very low-key, they won't show up at all, and they expose themselves for nothing. They don't even compete for 12 private rooms, they just hide on the 3rd floor and get a bid. According to Qin Yang's judgment, the price of the 61 fruits should come from someone on the 3rd floor. He give you 10 minutes, let's join hands with each other and raise the price even higher. Qin Yang's eyes flashed, and he secretly said in his heart. 10 minutes passed in a flash, and soon, the second round of dark shooting began. During these 10 minutes, a lot of small actions took place, the secret contact between the bidders, the selection of allies with each other, and it was completed unknowingly. Soon, the second round of prices was born. 62, 62, 62. Huh. Seeing this result, Doflamingo was stunned. It seems that the bidders have a tacit understanding, and there are 3 identical highest prices, and it is a coincidence that they are all 1 fruit higher than the previous highest price. For you guys are playing a little too far. This is only the second round, all are reserved. Moreover, the price of the first round is indeed too high, and those who have the ability to compete are not fools, and will naturally hide their clumsiness. The key is in the 3rd round. Thinking of this, Doflamingo looked at Qin Yang, and after a while, he said, "Then, start the 3rd round. Please note that the 3rd round is the last round. The highest bidder can get the blueprint of Hades. As for the transaction, Please don't worry, I'll wait for the dream to ensure that the drawings can be delivered to you without anyone knowing, so please bid. This time, there was no rest time, and the third round of dark shooting started directly. The atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Compared with the first round, there were at least 9 out of 10 bidders in the third round, and there were only a dozen or 20 real bidders. Many people are holding black cards, hesitating what numbers to fill in. This is not a simple number, but a devil fruit, and the value of 1 is not low. Time passed, and after 5 minutes, the dark shooting ended. Seeing this, Doflamingo said loudly, "Thank you for your support, now, let's see the results." First, the high price ranked third. As soon as the voice fell, a number popped up on the big screen. 85. The moment this number appeared, the auction hall was filled with the sound of inhalation. One by one, their eyes widened, shocked. 85 devil fruits, this is only the third highest price. Damn it, Sengoku pulled out his face, are you crazy? Even if you can't understand the ancient text, you can still pay such a price. Marine made 72, which was more than he could carry, by far, but had no choice but to bite the bullet and resolve the delivery issue afterwards. However, the price of 72 pieces did not even turn over a wave. For next, the second highest price. Doflamingo gave a weird laugh, shaking his heart. And the moment he finished speaking, another number jumped out. 88. With the previous 85, the response this time was much calmer, but still shocking. Now, everyone is staring at the big screen, waiting for the highest price to appear. However, there are also smart people who do not pay attention to the price, but pay attention to the face of the bidder. Now that the second highest price has appeared, the person who paid the highest price must have already known that the moment he knew that he had taken the picture of Hades, his face would definitely show flaws. Who is it? Countless gazes swept across everyone's faces. Soon, all the forces have suspects. It's them. At the same time, a third number appeared on the big screen. 90. Chapter-285-God does not know, Ghost does not know. 90. Highest bid has been made, 90 devil fruits. The more than 40,000 people on the seats on the first floor changed their expressions. It's crazy, 90 fruits can completely create a terrifying army of able-bodied. It's just used to auction a design blueprint. The Legion of Ability, it's too stupid. 100 able-bodied people can't compare to the combat power of a 4 emperor. On the contrary, ancient weapons are the power to subvert the world. That's right, if it weren't for this time there was only 2 months of preparation time. If the preparation time was extended to a year, or even longer, then the price at that time would be certain to exceed 100, and it could even reach 2 to 100. And even more. Someone exclaimed. 90 devil fruits took pictures of Pluto's design drawings, it's totally worth it. Dreams give too little time, otherwise the price will be even more terrifying. At present, although there are no statistics of the capable people in the world, there are thousands of people at least, and it is certainly worthwhile to exchange 90 devil fruits for the drawings of Hades. At this time, Chinyong finally got up from his seat. He glanced at all the auctioneers, and then announced loudly. The final transaction price has been released, 90 devil fruits, and the design drawings of the ancient weapon Hades. Congratulations to one of the bidders here, you got the ticket to subvert the world. Chinyong looked thoughtfully. Maybe you're worried that you won't be able to get out of the Sabayati archipelago, but don't panic, at least in the number 1 area of the auction. You are absolutely safe, any force against you is equivalent to waiting for me. Dreamy provocation, once there is a conflict, we will kill the offender with thunder. Quote. Damn dream, really uneasy. In the seat on the 3rd floor, somewhere in the back row, a man in a peaked cap cursed inwardly. Chinyang's words seem to be helping him, but in fact, he is telling others. One area is the sphere of influence of the dream. Here, no fighting is allowed, but if it is outside the number 1 area, you can snatch it as you please. However, even if he knew that Emperor Qin was playing with him, he didn't dare to jump up to express his dissatisfaction. Once he jumped out, a group of forces around him could swallow him up without dreaming. Tolerate. The man in the peaked cap gritted his teeth secretly. His face was very calm, and like everyone else, his eyes glanced around, as if looking for the person who took the blueprint. At this moment, Sengoku suddenly stepped forward, walked to the glass window, looked straight at Qin Yang, and said, "Emperor Qin, how do you want to deliver the drawings?" He wanted to see how Dream gave the drawings to others under the gaze of tens of thousands of eyes. Even if the rest of the people were to leave the auction venue first and deliver it individually in private, they could infer the suspicious person from the personnel. It can be said that the moment the auction drawings are delivered, the real competition has just begun. The auction of 90 fruits is just a process for Dream to hand over the blueprint. After all, the blueprint is in Dream's hands, and there is really no particularly good way to get it. This, Qin Yang, but Vivi Isho, sat back again. Aizen. Yes. Vice Captain Aizen stood up. He was no longer the death tyrant suit of the past, but a white Void Knight Palace suit, which set off his slender figure extremely tall and straight. Hu Shui. After getting up at this moment, the figure moves, and the next moment, it has already appeared in the center red platform. Doflamingo, you step back. Aizen said Q. At. Yes. Doflamingo quickly withdrew from the stage, and at the same time couldn't help but be curious, because even he didn't know how Dream would deliver the drawings without letting others find out. After he left, Aizen walked to the mahogany shelf and took down a stack of blueprints from the top. The blueprint of Hades you are fighting for is really not worth mentioning in my opinion. With that said, Aizen gently pulled out the Zanpakuto from his waist and slashed towards the blueprint. Seeing this, the expressions of countless people changed greatly. What are you doing? There are more impulsive people who want to stop it. However, Aizen's sword stopped when it pierced the blueprint. He. Aizen said with a low smile, "Don't be nervous, I'll show you some magic first." As he said that, he hung the Zanpakuto upside down, the blade hummed, and a little blue light radiated out. Its name is Kyoka Shueyu. Month, is exported, and the picture is frozen. The entire auction scene, more than 40,000 people, one by one, became motionless as if they had been immobilized. The man in the peaked cap was full of shock. He looked left and right, and suddenly found that no matter who it was like a wooden sculpture, maintaining a posture. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps came, and the next moment, Aizen's figure had appeared in front of him. Congratulations, you have auctioned the drawings of Hades. What did you do? The man in the peaked cap had a bloody expression on his face. Time stopped. No, slow fruit ability. Not right. What the hell is going on? All you see is just an illusion. Aizen Isho threw the blueprint to the other party and said, "Hand over the fruit. The blueprint is yours." Hearing this, the man in the peaked cap looked gloomy and uncertain. He looked down at the blueprint in his hand, unable to confirm the authenticity. But considering that the Dream is not yet ready to make a change, he immediately nodded and said, "Yes. However, we did not carry the 90 fruits with us." In fact, the 90 fruits were not from him alone, but from 6 pirate groups, and he only had 15 of them. I know that a single force, except the world government, can't produce 90 fruits. Aizen said calmly, "Hand in the fruits you can take out first, and then I will let the shadow demon follow you. You can hand over the rest of the fruits to the shadow demon." As he spoke, a wisp of black smoke drifted past, condensing into the shadow demon figure. "You don't have to play tricks, I will enter your shadow and keep watching your actions." The shadow demon let out a snort, transformed into a plume of black smoke, and burrowed into the shadow of the man in the peaked cap. Seeing this, the man in the peaked cap flashed his eyes, hesitated a little, and immediately handed over the fruit he was carrying. 15 fruits, Aizen confirmed countless, waved them and put them away. "Good luck to you, then." With a laugh, Lan Ran turned to leave. He handed the fruit to Qin Yang's body, and he returned to the central platform. The next moment, the fixed time resumes like this. Where are the drawings? Sengoku's expression changed, and his eyes widened, staring at Aizen. In his senses, in an instant, the blueprint in Aizen's hand disappeared. Everyone, thank you for coming to participate in this world's #1 auction. The handover of the auction items has ended, please leave the venue. Aizen retracted the zanpakuto with a playful gaze. What? Everyone was shocked. This was under the nose, tens of thousands of eyes were staring at it, and no one could see what happened. What the hell is going on here? On the throne, Chinyang suddenly got up, glanced at the people in the private room, and turned to leave. In the presence of tens of thousands of people completing transactions, this may sound incredible, but in fact it is nothing more than an illusion. Mirror flower and moon water cooperated with illusion representation. There were more than 40,000 people present, and almost no one could detect the abnormality. The dream is so grand, and under the eyes of countless people, the drawings of Hades were delivered. Of course, there was one person who was not deceived. The man was a blind man with a black beard around his mouth, tall and on wooden shoes. Wearing a lavender yukata, with a dark purple belt tied, and holding a wooden pole, he sat somewhere on the second floor without making a sound. This person's name is Isho, a famous swordsman in the world. The terrifying illusion, Isho closed his eyes and whispered in his heart, there are more than 40,000 people, countless masters, but no one can understand it. No one even knows what happened. Instead, I am a blind man, only then can we barely see the truth. This dreamy hand, unknown, made his mind shake. Chapter 0296_collapse Jade. The first update the network was disconnected from 9 o'clock in the morning today, and one was not repaired until about 3 o'clock. The update is late, I'm sorry . God does not know, ghosts do not know. Among the more than 40,000 people present, only one blind man could barely know what happened. The rest of the major forces were all looking around, trying to find out who had obtained the blueprint. But the man in the peaked cap was very cautious, and he had already put away the drawings quietly. Wait, leave. At this time, the Archangel announced calmly, the auction has ended. In Area 1, no fighting is allowed. If you violate the rules, you will be our enemy. Heilong interfaced and said, the going disc in the air at the auction is the eye of my waiting. If you violate the rules and trigger the alarm on the disc, Benlong will be the first to shoot. When the two masters spoke, all the forces were silent and did not intend to provoke. Immediately, the people in the 12 private rooms left one after another. The competition has only just begun. Mana, inform the people outside and prepare to block the area around #1. Quote. 3. The leader of the Bounty Hunter Alliance was the first to move at this moment. He walked out of the room and gave instructions to his daughter. I already have a few suspects. You have to keep an eye on them. Whether it's true or false, our ancestors will stop them. Yes. The Florist Bounty Alliance, whose members, more than 1,000, are all famous bounty hunters, and most of them stay outside the auction venue. After hearing her father's instructions, Mana nodded immediately, took out the phone bug, and went to contact the person in charge in the alliance. Similar conversations are taking place between various forces, and they are suspicious of each other, and they are all ready to block the surrounding area of #1 area. Kaido. In private room number 12, a man in a suit whispered, I suspect that the blueprint is in the hands of someone on the 3rd floor. I used some kind of illusion in the previous dream, and the transaction was completed unknowingly, but after the illusion was activated. A moment ago, I saw the state of everyone in the 12 private rooms. After the illusion was lifted, their movements and expressions were very natural, as if they had obtained the blueprints. Quote. Really? Kaido snorted softly. In that case, Jack, notify the flood, block the Sabayati archipelago, and don't let any fly go. Understood. Room 2. Marco shook his head and said, Dad, do we want to stop it? If we don't do anything, there will be a war soon. I can't stop it. Whitebeard chuckled twice. Boo Lala, the redhead asked us to join forces last time to suppress the rampant era, but the auction situation is crazier than expected. Let's not say stop. As long as you leave Area 1, you will be targeted immediately. Quote. Whitebeard pirates, the most powerful force among the four emperors, would still be targeted under such circumstances. No one can stop it, even if it is not a dream. Everyone has been blinded by ambition, and a world-shattering war is inevitable. The auction ended, and the bidders exited one after another. After half an hour, the huge auction was already empty, and it lost its popularity. Above the fourth floor, there are 10 thrones of the 10 rulers, and on the 6 chairs, the starry sky, life, thunder, time and space, yin and yang, and the mind, the bodies of the 6 masters are twisted and gradually dissipated. They are just illusions, and the reason why they have to appear at the auction is to deter the forces, otherwise, they might fight. And now, give the rest of them 10 courage, and they won't spread the war to Area 1 for the time being. Sand Emperor. The voice of the Archangel came out, and the next moment, the sand and dust filled the front, and the figure of the Desert Emperor Azir appeared. Keep an eye on everyone with the going disc, and once someone makes trouble in the number 1 area, suppress them directly. No problem. Nodding his head, Sand Emperor turned and jumped off the high platform. Doflamingo, come with me. At the same time, behind the auction, on a corridor. Nicole Robin blinked and followed Qin Yang step by step. Hesitating for a while, she couldn't help but say, Lord Qin, the bidders participating in this auction have a huge amount of devil fruits in their hands. Why don't we grab some? According to her understanding of this period of time, how could Dream miss such an excellent opportunity? Hearing this, Qin Yang was stunned, glanced at the little girl and said, I didn't expect you to have this kind of consciousness, then this matter is left to you. Huh. Robin was stunned. She had the power of a 3-legged cat to grab the fruit. That would be courting death. Just listen to Qin Yang and continued. The reason why they don't do it is because they will fight themselves. I'm waiting for Dream's position in this battle. You have to be clear. We are chess players. How can the chess players end the game in person at the beginning of the game? Hearing this, Nicole Robin nodded thoughtfully. On the other hand, Ligiette, whose eyes flashed, felt heart palpitations at Emperor Qin. This is to play the world's forces like monkeys. She doesn't know the true or false of Hades' blueprint, but she is very likely to have moved her hands and feet. As if seeing his thoughts, Qin Yang said again, Robin, take her down and watch closely. Yes. After the two of them left, Qin Yang walked into a quiet room and took out the 15 fruits he had just received. There were still 5 coins, and adding the 15 coins is 20 coins. Qin Yang thought about it and asked, Huan, how many fruits do you need to upgrade Aizen to 5 stars? 38 pieces. Fantasy Jean replied immediately. 38. Qin Yang was stunned. 3-star upgrade to 5-star, so much. 3-star Reaper upgrades to 4-star, consuming 12 pieces. 4-star Reaper upgrades to 5-star, consuming 26 pieces. Evolved. Fantasy Jean said. Children's appetite is small, but as they grow up, they will eat more and more. Moreover, the more the same mysterious power is absorbed, the weaker the effect will be. God has reached 6 stars. At that time, it may take 10 or even a dozen fruits to start a new transformation. However, at that time, you should look for other kinds of mysterious power, not limited to demons. Fruit. Hearing this, Qin Yang couldn't help shaking his head. He quite missed the old days when a single fruit could open a new transformation. However, this is also in his expectation. After all, the mysterious power contained in a fruit is limited. After genetic evolution, the consumption will naturally increase. Then go up to 4 stars first, wait for the shadow demon to retrieve the remaining 75 fruits, and then go up to 5 stars. Thinking of this, Qin 1.6 Yang immediately absorbed 12 devil fruits. No matter what kind of fruit he is, he directly absorbs it all at once. In an instant, 12 fruits turned into powder, and the next moment, a surge of spiritual pressure began to surge. Qin Yang's body suddenly turned into a spirit body. And this time the spiritual body, the spiritual power contained in the period, is also rapidly compressed and undergoes a qualitative change. As if climbing to another dimension, this huge spiritual pressure enveloped the entire number 1 area, but no one could feel it. It seems that the dimensions are different, and the second dimension cannot perceive the existence of the third dimension. Colleague, the information about Shinigami Aizen Sosuke has changed in my mind. 10th change. Grim Reaper Aizen Soyusuke. Star rating. Ability 1. Zanpakudo Kyoka Suzuki. Ability 2. Ghost Road. Ability 3. Shunbu. Ability 4. Collapsing Jade. Chapter 0297, Little White Mouse. Second update about the book Ruo Ren Ruo Huo. This book is not mine. The author changed my name to Flying Shark, so click on my author name and you will see that book close black lens bracket. 10th change. Grim Reaper Aizen Soyusuke. Star rating. Ability 1. Zanpakudo Kyoka Suzuki. Ability 2. Ghost Road. Ability 3. Shunbu. Ability 4. Collapsing Jade. Bangyu. Qin Yang looked surprised. He stretched out his right hand and pressed it on his chest. The next moment, a blue-black radiance gem emerged from the body. This gem is mysterious, and it seems to contain infinite power. Qin Yang can feel it when he holds it. The huge power in Bangyu is like tentacles, spreading in all directions. Huh. Suddenly, Qin Yang snorted and muttered, Bangyu is not a complete body, it is incomplete. It turns out that it should take 5 stars to make the collapsed jade reach the complete body. However, even if it is a broken collapsing jade, its effect is extremely terrifying. The ability of collapsing jade can be roughly summarized into 3 types. The first is to protect the host from death and immortality. This ability does not need explanation, it is just a literal meaning. Second, when the ability of the host reaches the limit, or the life is threatened, the host can be made to evolve to the next dimension endlessly. Of course, this is just talking about 15, it can't really be endless. There is also a limit to strength. The third type, this ability is the most unique, and it is also the real power of Bangyu. It can realize the development of people's inner hopes according to their own development, but the condition is that they need to have the strength to realize this desire. 3 abilities, one stronger than the other. Rao is Qin Yang, and can't help but be surprised. The incomplete version of collapsed jade is not as effective as the complete body, but it is quite scary. As long as Bangyu is in hand, no one in this world can destroy the 10th transformation, Aizen. In the true sense of immortality, no matter how strange the fruit ability is, it cannot destroy Aizen, at most it is sealed. And the second ability, Endless Evolution, this ability is more critical. The phantom body has a star level, and the full level is a 5-star level. Generally speaking, when you reach a 5-star level, you cannot become stronger. Now that you have Bangyu, you may be able to try to break through the 5-star restriction. Of course, at present, it is impossible to do it. Qin Yang himself has not studied it thoroughly. He has to understand Bangyu thoroughly before he can consider it. And the third ability, this is very interesting. To collect wishes and achieve them, the premise is that the person who made the wish has the ability to realize the wish. Qin Yang stared at the jade in his hand, pondered for a while, and then smiled. Maybe it can speed up the development of the fruit's ability. This is just a guess, how exactly, it remains to be tested. The real Aizen Sosuke used the ability of Bangyu to awaken many, ordinary people, to his own power, and he could even make broken faces in batches. Since the other party can do it, Qin Yang feels that there is no reason why he can't do it. I have to find a guinea pig first. Who should I look for? Thinking for a while, Qin Yang pondered a few people: Robin, Doflamingo, Lidget, Golden Lion. The first 2 are still reliable. It's just that, when I promised Doflamingo, when the auction is over, tell him the way to become stronger, isn't that what? He. Thinking of this, he immediately stretched out his hand and stroked 77 of the binding Tao, Sky Ting Kong Luo. The spiritual pressure is like a net, covering the entire Sabayati archipelago in an instant, and the invisible touch of spiritual pressure is searching for the target. At the entrance of the auction, on the 26 wooden shelves, 26 exhibitors were receiving the blast of the scorching sun. Behind them, Sand Emperor Azir quietly guarded. Azir, are we here to wait? Doflamingo opened his mouth and asked, no one dares to provoke us. Who knows, it's impossible to say. Azir remained silent, like a statue, standing still. Seeing this, Doflamingo couldn't help shaking his head. At this moment, his complexion suddenly changed, and the next moment, a voice sounded directly in his mind. Doflamingo. Aizen-sama. Come to me. Huh. According to the agreement, after the auction is over, I will show you the way to become stronger. Hearing this, Doflamingo was shocked, and there was a hint of ecstasy in his eyes. He has always been curious as to why these monsters in the dream are so powerful. In order to join them, he has always been honest and dutiful, acting as a pony, before and after the saddle. Now, it's finally time to pay back. Yes, Aizen-sama, I'll be right here. Doflamingo responded, ignored Sand Emperor, and returned directly to the auction venue. After a long time of hard work, he was finally recognized by the top management of Dream, and finally he could come into contact with a little bit of Dream's secrets. Doflamingo was very excited and soon came to the door of the room. Come in, Qin Yang's voice came out. Yes. Doflamingo pushed in the door and saw Aizen with his back to him at a glance. Aizen-sama. Doflamingo shouted cautiously, compared to the unpredictable and unfathomable Emperor Qin, the power that Lan Ran gave him is more intuitive, that is the power that crushes everything. Therefore, his fear of Aizen is deeper. I will tell you what I promised you last time. Qin Yang turned around slowly and looked at Doflamingo calmly, do you want to become stronger? Fur, of course. Being stronger will pay a price. Qin Yang said, what kind of combat power do you think can be called strong? Without waiting for the other party's answer, Qin Yang continued, do you want to reach the Admiral level combat power, the 4 Emperor level, or the contemporary invincibility? Contemporary invincibility. Doflamingo was stunned. In the era of Roger, One Piece King of Pirates Roger can't be called contemporary invincibility. If you have to say it, probably Emperor Qin, or the blue die in front of him, can be called contemporary invincibility. A super master who surpassed the level of the 4 emperors. It's just that Doflamingo doesn't have the potential for this kind of strength, because he doesn't know how to answer at this moment. In response, Qin Yang shook his head and slowly spread out his right palm. In his palm, a mysterious jade radiated blue-black light. It's called Bengyu, it can make you stronger. But with great danger, you might lose your mind. If you accidentally turn into a monster named Shu, I have to cut it myself. You. Of course, this is just to scare the other party, even if it becomes empty, Qin Yang has a way to make Doflamingo faceless. Do you still want to be stronger? Of course. For a Master Aizen, strength is everything. Fist is justice. Although I don't agree, but since you say so, then please be prepared. Qin Yang Isho, dead, don't blame me. Area 1, like Areas 2 to 29, is an illegal zone in the Sabayati archipelago. They are located in the center of the island. At this moment, the entire number 1 area has been blocked by countless forces. At the junction of Area 1 and Area 2, there is a river that runs through the island, and the river can flow into the sea. By the river, a coated boat is docked. On the shore, a group of pirates waited. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps came, and the man in the peaked cap ran quickly towards the coated boat. Have you got it? A man wearing a captain's hat asked in a deep voice. Man in the peaked cap nodded, let's go, if you don't go, you can't go anymore." When everyone heard it, they were overjoyed, and then a group of people boarded the boat. But at this moment, on the edge of the coated boat, a blind man in wooden shoes suddenly laughed. "It's a blessing to be blind. I'm Isho, everyone, let go of your ambitions." Chapter 0298 Doflamingo. It's a blessing to be blind. I'm Isho, everyone, please let go of your ambitions. The blind man sat on the edge of the coated boat. When he spoke, he slowly stood up and jumped to the port. A group of pirates looked awe-inspiring, and their eyes were murderous. The man in the peaked cap pressed the brim of his hat and said in a low voice, "Isho. Never heard of it." Another person said, "Isho Swordsman, a famous master of Ting, why is he here?" Everyone was on alert, and they took out their weapons, ready to protect the man in the peaked cap at any time. No, to be precise, it was to protect the drawings of Hades. In order to keep a low profile, the alliance of their 6 pirate groups did not dispatch many people to land on the island this time, and most of them stayed outside the sea. At this moment, only the Gecko Pirates, Captain Gecko Slooky, who is responsible for the response, is the star fruit ability. At this moment, Slooky whispered, "You go first, I will hold him, this guy is quite strong, and it is difficult to deal with." "Really, I see." The peaked cap nodded and couldn't help but look back at his shadow. As if he had guessed what he was thinking, in the shadow, the figure of the shadow demon flashed, and then the voice sounded directly in his mind. "Don't give up, this is outside the number 1 area, and I won't help you. Of course, if you die, I will personally go to your alliance and get the remaining 75 fruits." Hearing this, the corners of the cap's eyes twitched, scolding incessantly. On the opposite side, the blind man slowly drew out his wooden stick. His wooden stick was a long sword. After the sword came out, the sword light flickered. "I know the blueprint is in your hands. It's an unknown thing, and it will cause chaos in the world. If it is not stopped, disaster will surely come." He raised his stick and sword high, and murmured, "Destroy it, it should not be in this world." As soon as the voice fell, the sword fell. Gravity suppression. Boom. Suddenly, within a radius of 100 meters, it seemed that the air became extremely heavy, and all the pirates felt their bodies sink. "This is Paramesha gravity fruit." Slooky's face sank. "It's really troublesome." Saying that, his body gradually became fluid. I saw his skin turn black, and his whole body turned into a puddle like a Yi body. The next moment, this pool of black body suddenly turned into a sharp thorn ball, rolling towards the blind Isho. Ferrofluid big thorn ball. Boom boom boom. The huge thorn ball rolled away and ran over everything. Blind Isho opened his eyes, revealing the whites of his eyes. "Is that Logia? The ferrite fruit power, troublesome power." Not to mention the situation on the cap side, outside the auction venue, Sand Emperor Azir quietly guarded. Me tilde C is greater than or equal to 9 _. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked at the going disc floating above C's head. B. The disc radiated golden light, condensed one after another of magic light bullets, and with a swoosh, a string of light bullets hit an open space in front of the venue. Carrot Kai. Me. Seeing this, Azir stood up suddenly, holding the going scepter, and slammed forward a little. "The ability to hide your figure is very good, but you can't hide it from the going disc. The hostility you exude is too strong. Quicksand." The sandstorm whistled, turned into a dust storm, and swept away suddenly. I saw a nearly transparent figure on the open space in front of me, gradually revealing. Discovered my observation hockey has top-notch recluse abilities. How did this disc find me? The person who appeared was dressed in a black cloak, and when he saw the light bullet and the dust swept, he immediately turned around and ran away without lingering at all. His skin was green at one point, and when he ran away, he fell on the ground like a reptile. Zone lizard fruit chameleon form. Azir said in surprise. "The relatively rare zone, but I know you, you had a conversation with Aizen-sama during the first round of screening. Don't run. Saying that, he quickly chased after him. The two chased and fled, and quickly left the surrounding area of the auction venue. As for why this person appeared, Azir didn't have to guess at all, it was obviously to save people. As for who to save, is there any need to ask? Of course, it is one of the 26 displayers on the wooden frame. And just a few minutes after Azir left, a tall man with a huge face and an unusually large dark purple explosive head stepped forward. Oops, isn't this Crocker Boy? It makes me sad that Tuogong's clothes hang in such a place, hip-hop. Visitor grinned and walked up to Crocodile. Huh. Crocodile moved his fingers and slowly raised his head. His consciousness is not clear and his vision is blurred. The prolonged exposure to the sun and hunger has made his body very weak. Who are you? What? The visitor was taken aback, stared at Crocodile, and said, Croco Boy, it seems that you are already starving and fainted, and even I forgot. Listen up, I am Emporio Ivankov, Kamabaka Queen of the Kingdom. It's you. Crocodile's eyes widened suddenly, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. Ivankov, like a stimulant, made his brain sober a lot. Aren't you locked up in the deep-sea prison? Crocodile said suddenly, through gritted teeth. It's also thanks to the dream that attacked the prison, and I escaped while the chaos, hip-hop. Ivankov grinned and said, Croc Boy, I know your secret. I didn't expect you to become Shichibukai after not seeing you for a few years. It's unbelievable. You came to save me. Crocodile's eyes flashed. Dream. Ivankov curled his lips. No, it's not impossible to save you. Anyway, the dream member just now was led away by another person, hip-hop. Just as he finished speaking, a weak voice suddenly came from beside him. Save me once by the way. Gecko Moria said suddenly. His state was worse than Crocodile, the she-male king, Ivankov. At the same time, in a private room in the auction venue, Doflamingo fell to his knees and screamed. Ah! His nostrils, ears, corners of his eyes, mouth and his facial features were overflowing with thick white bone substances, which were wrapping his whole being. What is this? Aizen-sama. Chinyang snorted softly and said, I said earlier, let you be mentally prepared, but I didn't expect that you didn't persist for even half a minute, and it started to blur. Void. Doflamingo endured the pain and tried to maintain his sanity. Not a normal blur. Chinyang said, the human soul is the god of death on the front and the emptiness on the negative side. The so-called emptiness is the process of gradually becoming emptiness. I want you to quickly develop your own fruit ability, but I didn't expect your soul to be too evil. It just started to blur. It's not his fault, it's Doflamingo's own choice. Bangyu was just responding to Doflamingo's wish. The soul of Doflamingo itself is a lot more than that of ordinary people. Now that it is motivated by the collapse of Jade, it will become empty, and naturally there is a great probability. Am I going to die? Doflamingo gritted his teeth. No. Chinyang suddenly laughed. Anyway, you are just a guinea pig. If you survive, I will grant you the title of 10 Blades. The premise is that you survive. 10 Blades. Doflamingo's heart is awe-inspiring, and the speed of blurring is getting faster and faster. He was ruthless in his heart, and always felt that he was being played by Aizen again. Chapter 0299_So what? The first update tilde there is a mistake in the last chapter. Gecko Sluji, it is the Logia ferrofluid fruit, not the star fruit. The star fruit is another, it has not appeared yet. Once the blurring begins, it will not stagnate, at most it can only suppress the speed of its blurring. But Chinyang didn't do this. Since Doflamingo has already begun to become virtual, then let him become virtual. It's not a completely bad thing to become a phantom, and if it's broken again at that time, it can still improve the combat power. I saw Doflamingo lying on the ground, his whole body covered with bone, as if he had become a monster with a body size of 10 meters. The monster roared up to the sky, but the roar was inaudible to ordinary people, only those with inspiration could hear it. Roar. Instant, including Area 1, and above the Sabayati archipelago, many people felt the roar of tyranny in this life. At this moment, Doflamingo's emptiness began to condense a red spiritual pressure in front of his mouth, and this spiritual pressure condensed into one, very manic. The next moment, the red spiritual pressure turned into a flash of light, hitting the only target that was close at hand. Void flash. As soon as it became a virtual, it began to evolve into a big void. However, even sanity has been completely lost. It seems that your soul is indeed too evil. Qinyang put away the bengyu, and at the same time threw his left hand backhand. Immediately, a red phantom flashing from the front was slapped by him and led to the sky. Whoosh! This manic force suddenly broke through the roof of the Auction 227 meeting, rushed into the sky, and exploded with a bang. Boom! Since you are evolving towards the Great Void, then you can absorb the soul. How strong you can become is up to you. Qinyang took a step closer, grabbed Doflamingo's tail, and disappeared instantly the next moment. Instant step. Even if he was forcibly carrying a monster, his speed was terrifying, and within 3 or 5 steps, people had already appeared in the sky above the auction. Doflamingo was completely out of his mind and was struggling frantically. However, under Qinyang's huge spiritual pressure, all his struggles were useless. It's so lively, almost all the places around number 1 are occupied by major forces. Qinyang's perception, the entire Sabayati archipelago was under his investigation, just over there. Having chosen a direction, Qinyang suddenly threw Doflamingo out with the tail in his hand. With a swoosh, the white bone monster, like a cannonball, flew out in an instant. Meanwhile, outside of Area 1, Marine is blocking off a large area, not allowing anyone to leave. Anyone who approached would be blocked by Marine and asked to be searched. However, at this moment, a monster flew from the sky, and before anyone could respond, it suddenly fell from the sky. Boom! The thick smoke and dust filled the air, and the surrounding Marines looked panicked. When they glanced at it, they could barely see what it looked like. It was a white monster with a tail and looked extremely fierce. Roar! Suddenly, a sharp roar sounded. It's the strange cry just now. Someone exclaimed. Cry, what is it? There were also some people who looked dumbfounded. They couldn't hear the sound at all, and they could only barely see a faint shadow. But at this moment, a big hand stretched out and grabbed a Marine soldier, and the huge mouth opened and swallowed life. Seeing this, the sailors looked horrified and fled backwards, raising their guns and pulling the trigger at the same time. Monster! Kill him! Bang bang bang! The sound of gunfire was like rain, and it was very dense. Hundreds of thousands of bullets were poured out in an instant, all of them heading towards Doflamingo. Don't panic. At this moment, Momonga Vice Admiral stepped out, pulled out the blade suddenly, and walked towards Doflamingo with quick steps. I'll solve it, you block this area, don't let people run around. Roar! Doflamingo stared at Momonga who came with the sword, and roared up to the sky. The next moment, the dark red reiki converged in front of his mouth and turned into a flash of light. Flicker. What? Momonga Vice Admiral's complexion changed slightly, and at the critical moment, he only had time to put the blade in front of him. The next moment, boom! The virtual flash engulfed it, and in an instant, Momonga was hit 100 meters away, covered in trauma and bleeding. Soul soul. Doflamingo spit out 2 words intermittently. Then, he jumped close, like a tiger rushing towards food, and began to harvest. Oops! Momonga's face turned ashen, and he gasped, things have changed, contact Marshal Sengoku. 1. The man in the black cloak escaped frantically. He walked down on the ground, crawling on all fours, and his movements were very fast. Behind him, the yellow sand filled the sky and rolled in. Wherever it passed, it was like a sandstorm passing through, and everything was dry. Damn it, why is it so difficult? I have used the chameleon fruit to hide several times, but I have been found again and again. The man in the cloak looked ashen. No, his skin was originally green, not ashen, but very ugly. Don't run away, you can't run away. Sand soldiers. Behind, within the sandstorm, Azir's voice came out. The next moment, on the ground ahead, quicksand appeared, and going soldiers came out. These soldiers are wearing going armor and holding going halberds, and the number of them has reached more than 100 in an instant. They completely surrounded the cloaked man, and the halberds were held high like a city wall. Sand Emperor Azir. Seeing that the road was blocked, the man in the cloak had to stop. The others stood up and turned to stare at Azir walking out of the sandstorm. Tell me, which one of the missing people are you here to rescue? Who was instructed by you, and where did you come from? Azir did not rush to attack, but asked calmly. HMPH, do you think I'll tell you? The man in the cloak looked gloomy and said after a while. I'm Gasol, Zone Lizard Fruit Chameleon form. I don't mean to be an enemy of your dreams, I just want to save, Duo Treasure Pirates, Captain. The Treasure Pirates. That's right. Azir nodded. Scepter tapped. Sand soldier, grab him. As soon as the words fell, 100 soldiers stepped forward in unison, stabbed the halberd in front, and tightened the encirclement a little bit. Wait. Gasol hurriedly shouted. I came to rescue the treasure pirates under the order of the Red Earl. You don't need to be because of a small captain. Before he could finish, Azir interrupted. The Scarlet Earl, $. Red Earl, or Red the Aloof, Red Earl, whose real name is Patrick Redfield. This person belongs to the same era as Whitebeard, Roger, Sengoku, and Garp. He is a remnant of the Roger era, and belongs to the old immortality of the previous era. If I remember correctly, he should be imprisoned in the deep-sea prison. Could it be that the last time the Lich King attacked the Great Prison, he also escaped from the chaos? Azir thought calmly. I think so. Besides him, there should be a lot of people who ran out. Redfield, the Scarlet Earl, this person is extremely powerful. With just one person, he can be on an equal footing with Whitebeard, and even relying on the fighting technique, he can defeat the previous Marine Marshal Kong Kong. The Master of the Four Emperors. However, so what? Azir snorted softly and said, I don't know why you rescued the captain of the Duobow pirates, but if you want to save people, let the Scarlet Earl come in person. Sand soldiers, do it. Chapter 0300_chaos. If you want to save people, let the Red Earl come in person. Sand soldiers, do it. Azir's voice fell, and immediately, hundreds of sand soldiers moved in unison. They compressed the encirclement, raised the going halberd, and stabbed towards Gasol. Seeing this, Gasol's complexion changed slightly, and he said angrily, is the name of the Count not working? Damn dream. Thinking of this, his figure began to fade slowly, disappearing completely before the sand soldier's attack fell. It's useless, you just blend in with your surroundings and can't escape the detection of the going disc. Azir's scepter clicked, and suddenly, sand and dust rose from the ground, like a big hand, and rolled over. At the same time, the hundreds of sand soldiers also turned their directions in unison and charged away to the side of the open space. Going disc. Gasol was forced to appear, and with a single step, he quickly avoided the capture of the hand of sand and dust. His eyes turned to the sky, and above the auction, a huge golden disc slowly turned. It is like a heavenly eye that sees everything. It turns out that it's no wonder that my observation hockey's recluse, plus the ability to transform, can't escape. Gasol suddenly reacted, and he no longer hesitated, and immediately ran towards the Alchiman mangrove in Area 1. Going disc always has a limit of detection range, and he can escape the pursuit as long as he hides higher or stays away from the disc. It has to be said that this judgment is correct. However, Azir did not chase after him, but let the other party flee. It's a pity I found out too late. Gasol's actions are fast. He is a lizard fruit and has outstanding tree climbing ability. In less than a minute, he had already climbed to the top of the Alchiman mangrove tree. Lying on the branches of the mangrove tree, Gasol's body once again integrated with the environment and disappeared completely. HMPH, this time, I don't believe you can lock me. Gasol snorted coldly, made up his mind, and took the opportunity to escape later. As for the captain of the treasure pirates, if he wanted to save people, he had to think of other ways. However, at this moment, the sound of a dragon roar came. Roar. Longway bursts, shrouded in Gasol's head in an instant, making his face pale. Master class. He gritted his teeth. Before he could react, he saw a black shadow fly by, and he was already pinched in the claws by a dragon. Damn, what a fast speed. He was awe-inspiring, trying to break free. Benlong has already warned that no forces, individuals, or organizations are allowed to do anything in Area 1. Since you knowingly committed the crime, don't blame Benlong for being ruthless. Hailong raised his claws and looked Gasol in front of his eyes. Die. Vivi's paw squeezed Gasol to death. Wait. Gasol was terrified, feeling the horror of death. I know a secret of the treasure pirate's awe. Don't be too deceiving in your dreams. In the screams, Gasol was directly pinched to death. Lord Earl will avenge me. In the roar, he completely softened into a pool of mud, and the bones of his whole body were broken, and he also changed from the transformed form back to the human form. Red Earl. Hailong curled his lips in disdain. If an immortal person dares to come here, Benlong will be able to kill him easily. After speaking, he threw the person down and said, go and hang it up and show it to the public. Lest other forces think that I'm just talking about the dream. Meanwhile, in the surrounding waters of the Sabayati archipelago. Under the sea, a coated ship hovered quietly. Inside the ship, in the captain's room, a huge luminous stone exudes a dim light. Under the light, a pale man could be seen. The man was wearing a red cloak, and in his open right palm, a white card was slowly burning and disappeared completely. Gasol's Vivre card burned out. Man leaned on an umbrella and let out a low laugh. Dream is really lawless just in time. I'll go there in person and meet Whitebeard by the way. With that said, the man indifferently instructed, prepare to be discouraged and float up. Yes, my lord count. In the darkness, a reply came. Puff puff. Bubbles broke away from the coated boat, and the boat began to slowly rise. Sabayati archipelago. Wars are happening everywhere. There are more than 100,000 people mixed here, from various forces. Before the whereabouts of the blueprints could not be determined, small conflicts had broken out. However, there is still a balance between the major forces. Dared to make the first move, Marine kept an eye on Whitebeard and Kaido, and the 10 major families could only make small moves. The rest of the pirate alliance were also assigned to their respective camps, and they were restraining each other. Everyone is searching, looking for drawings. At this moment, above the sky, a big bird burning with blue flames roams the sky and patrols the earth. Marco flew around the number 1 area and flew in a circle to roughly determine the situation. A Vice Admiral team in Marine has encountered a monster, so ignore it for the time being. He secretly said in his heart, the person who got the blueprint must want to leave the Sabayati archipelago as soon as possible, so whoever wants to escape is a suspicious person. However, I turned around and found nothing for the time being. Suddenly, Marco let out a suspicious sound. He looked down from a height and saw a commotion below. A group of pirates were blocked by a blind man. One of them, in the form of a fluid, is extremely dark, and can constantly change forms in an attempt to trap the blind. But the blind man was extremely powerful and possessed the ability to manipulate gravity, but he had the upper hand. This group of pirates want to run. Marco's eyes flashed. That's Gecko Sluky, the captain of the Gecko Pirates, the person with the ability of the magnetic liquid fruit. Thinking of this, Marco swooped down. Whoosh! I saw a big bird falling, which suddenly blocked the two sides in the exchange of fire. Phoenix Marco. Sluky's face changed greatly, and he suddenly felt that the situation was not good. The cyan flames slammed into the face and burned roaringly. After a while, these flames converged and condensed into a human figure. Marco glanced at the blind man, then stared at the gecko pirates. He took out a phone bug from his pocket and said, "Dad, a suspicious pirate group has been found. They have already prepared the coated boat, should they be caught first?" "Well, it's the gecko pirate group. Gecko pirates, Captain Gecko Slooky, with the ability of magnetic liquid fruit, with a bounty of 678 million. The other end of the phone, Whitebeard's voice came. "Judging for yourself, Marco, there's going to be a conflict here. Gula lala, you snotty little bastards, instead of looking for blueprints, you're trying to deal with our Whitebeard pirates. Who do you think I am? It's Whitebeard." Quote. The latter sentence was not addressed to Marco. "Damn, it's so confusing. Someone is going to take action on Dad." When Marco heard that the phone was hung up, his face suddenly became extremely ugly. The current Sabayati archipelago is in chaos, as if a puddle of muddy water has drawn everyone into it. And the person who caused all this, Dream, is sitting firmly on the Dauyutai, staying in the auction, watching all this quietly.